There is, a climate emergency, and that really is at the foundation of what we do.
The looming crisis of climate change is the challenge of our generation to fix.
I think it was President Macron of France who said, "There's no planet B."
Let us face it, there is no planet B.
The climate emergency isn't going away.
Every time there's a hurricane, there's a tidal wave, there's an extreme weather event. It's not software that solves that. Software needs hardware, hardware needs software. Clean tech is typically hardware.
You could argue that clean tech is becoming the only game in town.
Time is against us, so that's really what's motivating us, is to find and fund the best possible technologies.
That the ecosystem for investment is not as mature.
And this is exactly what Greenbackers is helping to do.
We have access to technologies that could really make a difference if they could get the funding that they needed.
The technology required to make that a reality has not all been invented yet.
The pressure is on us in terms of finding those solutions. The clock is against us.
The companies that we're dealing with today can make a real impact.
We want to try and get the planet fighting fit again.
That's what drives us in Greenbackers.
This sector is absolutely critical to the survival of the human species.
We're just trying to save the planet, one deal at a time.
Hello everyone, how are you? I didn't hear that. How are you? Wow, what an audience, this is amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, entrepreneurs, investors, service providers, accelerators, government agencies, not to forget our fantastic sponsors, welcome to Glasgow, to Greenbackers SuperPitch at COP26. For those of you here in the audience, we're not quite sold out, or at least we thought we sold out, but there's still some spaces left here in the audience. And for those of you online, I understand that we have, how many do we have? We have around 1,300 online. Again, wow. I'm so excited. We never dreamed when we started this program that it would get so big. I'm Robert Hoken, you saw me up there. I'm managing partner at Greenbackers Investment Capital. I'm a Chicagoan, I'm a transplant. I came over here 30 years ago in tech in a corporate environment. And in 2005, after spending half of my life in technology, I entered into a new sector, a new asset class, in fact, called clean tech. Why? I recognized then, as I continue to, not only the challenges to our planet, in fact, to our species, to our ability to survive the next 100 years and beyond, but also the enormous growth potential of this industry. We also saw the struggles that great scale-up technology ventures and founders had in attracting capital, and the struggle funders also had in finding the right deals to invest in. Out of that, Greenbackers was born. We've been here pretty much from the beginning, and sometimes I feel every year of that. My partners, John Steedman, Andrew Smith, Mark Hannigan, joined me because they saw the potential to enable this sector to make a difference, to make a real difference, and to help fund the technology ventures that can change the world. Back then, clean tech and we were considered niche. We had to push hard to get mainstream funds and funders interested. But after helping and engaging with hundreds of funds, hundreds of ventures, doing deals in this space, do we still believe in its potential? More than that, we believe it's essential. Whether you call it earth tech, clean tech, climate tech, net zero, envirotech, it's called so many things. It's absolutely essential that we move these great technology businesses you'll see and hear from today, and hundreds like them, forward. Climate technologies must succeed, and they need all of our financial support and our will and our ability, and that's why we're here today. After week one of COP26, focusing on policy, regardless what you think of what's happening over there in the COP, now it's time to get down to clean tech business. In the words of Vinisha Umashankar, she's a 15-year-old Earthshot Prize finalist who last week calmly but passionately called out world leaders to take action. She said, "Let me be clear. When we invite you to join us, we will lead, even if you don't. We will act, even if you delay. And we'll build the future, even if you're still stuck in the past. When it comes to climate change, there is no stop button. We cannot hit pause or even rewind. We can only move forward together towards the future." Wow, what inspiring words. That so resonates with us. We call on all funders, all technologists, all entrepreneurs, accelerators, service providers, government agencies. Work with us, and together help us to build the low-carbon future that we know is possible, because we're all in this together. We're all connected. Whatever our function or ambition, our fates are tied. Let's do this. We've got a great agenda today. We've got some amazing speakers, some fantastic technologies, investable climate tech ventures you'll hear from, and you'll also hear a little bit later about the launch of the Greenbackers Fund today. So let's get to it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for joining us today. And let me now hand over to my partner, Andrew Smith. Andrew?
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This photo was taken in 1967 by Michael Collins during the Apollo 11 mission. He took it from the lunar capsule Columbia. In the foreground is the lunar landing craft, Eagle. You may remember that iconic phrase. I certainly do. I stayed up all night to watch this and was very disappointed when it was repeated all the time the following day. That iconic phrase, Eagle has landed. That is Eagle. Aboard Eagle are Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, and in the background is the Earth. This beautiful planet is what we are all working so hard to save. And what about the people? Well, at Greenbackers, we believe we need a common purpose and a common mission to solve the climate crisis. In this picture, Michael Collins apart, is every human being, alive or dead. We truly are in this together. We've got a really packed program today. Our online guests can see this agenda on our website, and those of you here, we're not handing out agendas. There are QR codes where you can get it up on your phone. We have 26 outstanding businesses across 4 themes. Each will be followed by a short panel discussion featuring a stellar lineup of panelists described by my colleague Mark Hannigan as better than Live Aid. Those of you that remember Live Aid. We have 2 keynotes from truly inspirational people. And at the interval, we'll be showing some films from our event partners. Now, without those partners, this technology showcase would not be possible. Our partners shared our early vision back in November. Let's do something that means something at COP. Let's do something that actually creates real change. And our partners came with us with that vision. And we'd like to just name check them all now. We've got Brown Rudnick here, international law firm, who last night, unasked for by anybody, ran a dinner for all the chief executives of the businesses that are here. And I can tell you the electricity in that room, the ideas in that room were just amazing. It was fantastic. We've got Scottish Development International supporters. They are waiting to hear from you. If you want to come to Scotland and live and work in Scotland, get in touch with them for sure. We've got Michelin Scotland Innovation Park. It was the old Michelin tire factory, now repurposed for innovation, an amazing space. If you can, please go and visit it. If not, check them out online. We've got Trirec, an investment business from Singapore, who are really trying to help address climate change through their investments. the Green Recruitment Company, who are one of the leading recruitment businesses focusing solely on the green sector. We have GovGrant, CivTech Alliance. GovGrant know all there is to know about R&D and innovation on the tax side, and CivTech Alliance creating an ecosystem among governments, among private sector, and among the third sector to try and make people's lives better. And we've got Strathclyde University here, which I'm pretty proud about because I actually graduated from this university back when most of you were probably not even born, I have to say. Throughout the day, after the day, please tweet, please post, please do that. We have our hashtag 26 for COP26. Outside there are selfie walls for our sponsors, there are selfie walls for our ventures. Please use those. And afterwards, after the event, please carry on those conversations that you create on your own social media feeds. Before all that, what I'd like to do is introduce my fellow Greenbacker, my friend, our Houston-based guy, Mr. Mark Hannigan.
Thanks, Andrew. So as Andrew said, I'm Mark Hannigan, and I run Greenbackers operations in North America from Texas, as you can probably tell from my accent. So we have a jam-packed agenda tonight, and we really want to get to it. But I just want to spend a few minutes explaining to people who Greenbackers are and what we do, and then it's very much about the ventures, the panelists, and the keynote speakers. So the world of clean tech investing can be quite confusing, so I just want to clarify exactly what we do. We have a very specific niche. So we focus on clean technologies which have an impact on sustainability, but very specifically at the early stage where they migrate from idea, concept, kitchen table, little bit of public grant funding to institutional private capital. So we help these businesses over the hump that's traditionally called the Valley of Death. The reason we do that is, as you can see on the left-hand side, founders are incredibly busy. These guys are chief cook, bottle washer, CEO, and everything in between, and they do not have time to chase investors. And on the right-hand side, investors are now overwhelmed with deal flow, and they need someone to separate the wheat from the chaff and curate and present opportunities, because these guys' time is precious. So that's our purpose. The way that we do that, the way that we bring these two worlds together, we do it in three ways. Primarily through our digital deal room, which currently has, I think, 230 clean tech investment funds on 232 on board. Thanks, Robert. That group of investors have about $5 billion under management right now. And if we add up all of the investment that this group are looking for tonight, it's $70 million. So we have a good shot. The digital deal room is the way that we connect these two worlds now. It's built based on voice of investor. The guys are able to review the investment opportunities in a kind of easy to digest, on-demand manner. It means that we don't waste these guys' time tying them up, chasing, getting doors slammed in their face. Second method is through thematic webinars, investor roundtables, and we've hosted a whole bunch of those over the last few months. That's kind of not hard pitching, it's just socializing the sector with a bunch of investors. That's been very successful. And of course, pitch events like the one tonight, which is the heritage of Greenbackers. Those are the three ways that we do our job. What is tonight about? Well, it's about these guys, frankly, because these people are amazing. These are the heroes of net zero here. Every one of these founders could take a much higher paying job in a Fortune 500 company in the city tomorrow, but they choose not to. They choose to follow the path of making a difference in climate change and creating great technology, and it's an absolute privilege to work with these people. These are some of the most special people. I encourage you to spend time with them in the networking area. later. The eagle-eyed among you may spot, I think there's 24 up there. I think we're hearing from 24 tonight. There was originally 26. One of them get funded very early out of the gate. The 24 are presenting tonight, and there's another 2 out in the networking area. So just in case someone wants to be a smarty pants and point that out to us. Final comment from me. Everyone in the room was issued with a green casino token, so to speak, when you registered. So with apologies to those in the online audience, everyone in the room is an investor tonight, and at the end of the pitches, you have the opportunity to invest your token in the pitch that you found to be most compelling when you go back out to the networking area. So pay attention and decide who deserves your investment. Thank you for attending tonight. With that, I'm going to hand back to Andrew to introduce a very special guest.
Thank you, Mark. Without even looking to my right where my colleagues are, I can tell that they'll be smiling now, because Bertrand Piccard, and I hope I don't embarrass him here, he's a real hero of mine, a personal hero of mine. But let me tell you why. Bertrand was actually present when the UN held its signing ceremony for the Paris Agreement in New York on 22nd April 2016. Now, when I say present, he was actually in the air, halfway between Hawaii and San Francisco, piloting his solar-powered plane. That plane had been dreamt about, had been conceived and built by Bertrand and his colleagues. And whilst he flew around the world, he also took the coolest selfie I've ever seen. You need to go on the website to see that. Bertrand spoke live from the solar plane to the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Now, no pressure to the tapestry guys there. Solar plane, New York, live broadcast. I'm sure you can step up to that as you broadcast our own event to USA, to Europe, to Australia, and everywhere in between. I would encourage you all to go on the web and find that discussion between Bertrand and Ban Ki-moon. During it, Bertrand said that not only was the UN, in signing the Paris Accord, beginning to save the world's environment, but it was also launching the clean tech revolution. Bertrand established the Solar Impulse Foundation with the ambition of establishing 1,000 solutions, badged solutions, profitable solutions that could help save the world. And he achieved that with his team earlier this year. And we at Greenbackers are one of a great number of experts who help have a look at those solutions before they are badged. So it gives me the very greatest pleasure now to first introduce to you a film about Solar Impulse Foundation, after which I'll invite Bertrand up to say a few words. So if we could run the film now, please. Thank you.
Every dream in history was considered impossible until it had been accomplished. Behind each achievement, explorers have invented the future by going beyond the frontiers of certainties. They have broken the rules, challenging common assumptions to discover new solutions. Today, solving the environmental crisis seems out of reach. We need the same pioneering spirit that has in the past allowed mankind to achieve the impossible. This is how we will find the solutions to change the world. Bertrand Piccard, the visionary behind Solar Impulse, wanted to demonstrate the incredible potential of renewable energies and clean technologies. Solar Impulse was built to carry this message around the world.
Hello, Solar Pulse. Hello, Captain Picard. I am inspired by your pioneering spirit.
You know, Mr. Secretary General, if an airplane like Solar Impulse can fly day and night without fuel, the world, of course, can be much cleaner.
Hotel India Bravo, turning final, 02 right.
More than an achievement in the history of aviation, Solar Impulse has made an achievement in the history of energy. Let's take it further!
What can be done in the sky can be done on the ground. Replacing old and polluting infrastructure by modern and efficient technologies is logical as much as ecological. Convinced that protection of the environment will become a reality only if it's economically viable, Bertrand Piccard has launched the second phase of his action, committing the Solar Impulse Foundation to identify 1,000 solutions that can protect the environment in a profitable way. Developed by startups and corporates, these solutions reduce pollution and improve efficiency in the fields of water, energy, construction, mobility, industry, and agriculture for a better quality of life. Assessed by independent experts and labeled by the Solar Impulse Foundation, they represent the market opportunity of the century, generating jobs and clean growth. In the near future, Bertrand Piccard will travel around the world again to present this unique selection of solutions with one goal: encourage governments, businesses, and institutions to go beyond compromise and set more ambitious environmental targets and energy policies. Here again, the spirit of exploration has a role to play in achieving what many people still consider impossible. And you can be a part of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's no real need for me to be on this stage right now. I just wanted to be. It gives me the very greatest pleasure to introduce to you the very gracious, the very kind, the truly inspirational Bertrand Piccard.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Have you noticed that when there is a big event around the environment or climate change, the speeches are usually always the same? It's a long list of all the problems, and the last sentence is, we have to act, and then the speaker sits down, everybody applauds, and nobody knows how to act. And it's like this since 20 years. So now it's time to explain how to act, what to do, what are the solutions, and to show that the solutions are financially profitable. Because I believe that if it is so difficult to find an international consensus, it is because every country believes that it will be a handicap for its economical development to commit to ambitious NDCs. But it's exactly the opposite. Now ecology has become the driving force of the economy. If we want to drive the economy, if we want to take the new industrial opportunities, it's obvious that we need to go into all the technologies that protect the environment and reduce carbon emissions. This is what I had in mind when I was flying in Solar Impulse. You have to imagine the situation. Flying over oceans several nights and several days in a row, in an experimental airplane, getting all the electricity from the sun. And each time I was watching my big propellers turning left and right of the cockpit, there was no noise, there was no pollution, there was no fuel. And there's a moment I pinched myself because I thought I would wake up in my bed. I thought it was a dream. I thought it was unreal. Like a science fiction movie just been propelled into the future. And not at all. I did not wake up because I was not dreaming. But I was not in the future. I was in the present with what the technologies of today allow us to do today. And that for me was really like a revelation. Because it's the moment I understood that if I was not in the future, it was the rest of the world that was in the past. And just look how much the world is in the past. We are using thermal engines that are 27% efficient, losing 3/4 of the gasoline you have in the car, in the tank, when the electric engines of Solar Impulse were 97% efficient. We live in houses that are hardly insulated, inefficient heating, cooling, and lighting systems, old industrial processes, dirty ways to burn fossil energy. Are we proud of that? So we bravely wave our latest smartphone to make believe that we are modern, but we're not modern. Everything we use in this world is about 100 years old and was invented at the beginning of the oil era. And here's the problem. So the goal today is not to push the world into the future. The goal is to bring the world from the past to the present. To use the technologies that exist today, because it's a big handicap to make believe that we will solve everything with high tech in the future, because this makes a big paralysis. People don't move and they say, we will wait for the future. No. To act now, we have to see what are the solutions that we have now. And it's incredible to see how many solutions exist to replace all the old and polluting infrastructures of the world. Basically, we have to change everything. So it might give a bit of vertigo, but of course, if it's expensive, nobody will do it. We will never reach any consensus, any agreement, any commitment. But imagine that it's profitable. Imagine that the investment to change all the infrastructures of the world in terms of construction, mobility, energy, whatever, if it's profitable, if you recover the investment with the energy saving and the resource saving you make, then it's worth doing it. And this is what I wanted to demonstrate with this idea, this challenge of the Solar Impulse Foundation, to identify more than 1,000 examples and proofs that it would be possible. In the beginning, of course, a lot of people told me it was impossible. And that's a big stimulation, because the people you get in your team are really talented people. People who like to solve problems, people who like to find solutions. So we got the 1,000 solutions. Now we are at 1,300 solutions, and some of them are here. I think among the 26 pitches, 8 solutions received the label of the Solar Impulse Foundation, and 10 are in process of getting it. So you are all credible, because those are the criteria for the solutions. You are credible, it means your solutions exist today, ready to go on the market or already on the market. They make economical sense. Your company will earn money by producing these solutions, and the consumers, the clients, will save money by using the solutions. And they are all either a way to protect the environment by doing better than anything else existing, or by opening a new business opportunity to protect the environment. So it's really interesting to see that today, changing all the infrastructures of the world is possible, credible, profitable. That means that we can do it. And what changes really in the mindset, or what has to change in the mindset of the people, is that up to now, the economical development, the GDP, was based on always producing and consuming more, which makes CO2 emissions, pollution, waste, and depletion of natural resources. But with the type of solutions that are existing today, we can link the GDP and the creation of wealth to the quality of the efficiency. And this is the big change. This is what I love to call the qualitative growth, because it is not a way to degrow because degrowth will lead us in a social chaos, but it's not this so-called stupid infinite growth that leads us to the ecological disaster that we know. It's neither of the two. And we should never accept this illusory choice to choose between one or the other. No, we have to refuse both and take the third way, which is the qualitative growth, where you create jobs and you earn money by replacing what is polluting by what is protecting the environment. So you see, in a way, we have here a fantastic samples of the solutions that all the negotiators and politicians should know about. Because if they knew more about what is existing, they would change the regulations in order to pull all these innovations to the market. They would put the standards, the norms, the regulations, the rules, the legal framework to make it mandatory to use the most efficient solutions, the cleanest solutions. They could impose it because they exist and because they're financially profitable. All the negotiators could take really ambitious commitments for the environment and for the climate. So we are able, with these technological demonstrations, and all these companies who are committed to bring solutions, we are able to reconcile ecology and economy. It means that we don't need to have people in rooms who do nothing and youth screaming outside. We can take what is good on every side, in every part, bring it together, and make a world that is not a world built on ideology. It's a world built on reality, but the reality of what we can do today. Nothing to do with the polluting past, nothing to do with an illusory future. No, it's the present. We are building the present, and this has a lot of value because it's realistic. So congratulations for what you are doing. It's fantastic to have this partnership with the Greenbackers, because I'm not just here to speak for 10 minutes. I'm here because I admire what you do, because we have this relation, because you are experts that are making the assessment for the solutions that we identify, and we're doing a great job. You are fantastic in what you do. You bring finance into ecology. And this is very valuable, extremely valuable, because usually the world follows where the finance is going. So the world will follow you. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, what I'd like to do now is introduce again my colleague, Mark Hannigan, who will now start with these amazing solutions, the first session. Mark, over to you.
Thanks, Andrew. And thank you, Bertrand, again. A couple of quick points before we get to the main business of the day. Ecology is driving the economy. You know, it used to be that clean tech and profitability was an oxymoron, but not anymore. Super profits can be made in this sector, no question. Very quickly, something I forgot to mention. So tonight is actually the crescendo of a 6-month program in which we've been working with these guys, and it continues after tonight. But just for context, so about 6 months ago, 7-8 months ago, we ran a competition to try and identify the 26 most investable clean tech ventures we can find. Not cool technology, investable. And that's what you have here in the room. And we've been working with them in our investment community for the last 6 months to raise their profile, gain investor interest. For the actual investors in the room and online, the capital allocators, you're only going to hear from each venture tonight for 2 minutes. You've got to get in the deal room to see their full profile, their pitch deck, their business plan. So if you're an investor in this event and you're not registered for our deal room, get to our website and get in there ASAP, please. And then thirdly, before we dive in, so this is going to be the first of 4 thematic sections. The agenda is broken into 4 thematic sections. Each section has between 5 and 7 mini pitches by a subset of the cohort, and then a short panel discussion to discuss that theme. The first of the thematic sessions is sustainable transportation. That's what we're going to do right now. We're going to hear from these 5 ventures, and then we're going to have a quick panel discussion about that sector. So without further ado, Morten Reining from CityQ is going to kick us off. Thank you, Morten.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here, and great to be one of the latest solutions submitted to Solar Impulse. Grateful for that. Cars are being restricted in cities, and we are supposed all to change from driving to cycling. But cycling can be challenging, and especially in bad weather or when delivering goods or delivering children. My name is Morten Reining. I'm the founder of CityQ, and we aim to make this shift from driving to cycling more attractive. We're basically trying to downsize a car into a high-tech bike. A bike with weather protection, with safety, with the capacity to bring either passengers or cargo. Almost like a car, but with 90% less in energy and CO2 emission. And it's as small as a bike, it's regulated as a bike, so you can ride it and park it anywhere you like for free. And family cargo bikes are becoming very popular in Europe. It grows with 40% last year. It's expected to grow up to 10 billion euro by 2030, of which CityQ aim at taking 1 billion euro. Even before launch, we got 2,000 customers subscribing to buying or interest to buy, both B2B and B2C, and we will be offering CityQ both for sales, for rental and for lease, and as a platform with multiple models made very multiple. And like cars, future bikes will soon become very high-tech. CityQ will be one of the first bike that removes chain and gears and replace it with software, enabling you to download new functionality and do remotely repair, like a Tesla or your smartphone. We will also soon be making potentially the first bike that can go purely on solar panel. We're looking for 5 million euro to start delivering to pre-ordering customers, and hope that you will look at it outside and meet the rest of the team. Thanks a lot.
Good afternoon. I'm Ewan Christie, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of 4EV. We're a Scottish-based electric vehicle charging operator. Don't we just live in unprecedented times? Floods, fires, famine, and the potential destruction of our environment. It's time to wise up. We all need to make a difference. We can help deliver change, to turn back the tide, to have some fun, and add some shareholder value along the way. Here's where I think we can make a difference and how you can help. Decarbonising transport isn't easy. The huge increase in the demand for electric vehicles is driven by politics, the pandemic, and product. It's a great time and place to buy an EV using someone else's money, but the answer to one single question is holding many back. Where am I going to charge it? 4EV will deploy 1,700 charge points on 600 sites across Scotland over the next 5 years. That's about 36% of the projected market. Our chargers are all in public places, like this one on Springfield Quay in Glasgow. It's all about growth, rapid growth, like these mushrooms. Our rapid growth is well worth investing in. We recently raised £2 million from the nice people at the Scottish National Investment Bank to help us moving on the rollout. Now we're looking to attract some non-dilutive funding over the next few months to increase the runway and deliver our first 50 sites next year. We'll also be fundraising again from next August to close out a further equity round very early in 2023. We'd be delighted to talk to those who provide grants or loans to early stage businesses and also equity investors about our next funding round. Many thanks for your time today. Thanks to Greenbackers for organising such a great event, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the speakers.
HSA can't be with us today. They're in Australia. I know they're watching. Hi guys, we'll do you proud. What they're going to do is show a short film now, and then those of you with these envelopes at the end of the film will open the envelopes. Please run the film. Thank you.
We live in a beautiful world. But our world has some problems. Green hydrogen is becoming the hottest market on Earth, the biggest enabler in the clean energy transition. Forecast to be a $12 trillion market by 2050, the hydrogen economy has already started as gigafactories come online and hydrogen hubs and projects roll out all over the world. The problem? The cost of hydrogen is too high. But Hydrogen Systems Australia has a game-changing solution. HSA has a brand new technology we call Project Shield. This groundbreaking, provisionally patented and disruptive dual-frequency plasma electrolyser technology creates cheaper green hydrogen, and the numbers stack up. HSA offers a compelling case for investment. Cost. Through Project Shield, our systems will be 20% of the price of current electrolysers. That's 80% cheaper and producing a kilogram of hydrogen for the much coveted $2 mark before 2030. We believe we'll achieve this by 2025. Efficiency. The efficiency of creating hydrogen using plasma is up to 90%, compared with 57% for current PEM electrolysers. Our team, top-line talent driven by passion and with purpose. Culture is in our DNA. HSA is looking for first-round validation funding of $10 million Australian dollars for the build and field testing of Project Shield. We have clear profit streams in place with an abundance of licensing opportunity. We're here at the Greenbackers SuperPitch looking for the right investors. Those who fit with our values, align with our passion and purpose, and who also provide value beyond the dollar. This investment represents ethical profitability as we drive forward in cleaning up the world. We are Hydrogen Systems Australia and we are part of the solution. Join us in the hottest market on Earth.
Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, could you please now open your envelopes? For those of our guests online, just pretend it's the Oscars. I'm opening the envelope for all of you. These are the envelopes, and inside you will find the story and also $2. You can see that the HSA guys are extremely confident that their numbers stack up. We would invite you all, investors, yes, end users, please, to think about joining with them. If you want to get in touch with them online, please go to our platform. If you want to get more information here, please grab hold of one of our helpers in the Greenbackers tops. Let us know and we'll make sure your messaging gets to them. Thank you very much indeed.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Neil Riddle. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Power, and we make public electric vehicle charging simple. And I have 2 minutes to tell you what we do. So outside you can find a giant smartphone and a pink sign if you want to speak to me afterwards. So we're focusing on making public electric vehicle charging easy. We're managing issues with subscriptions, the experience and receipts. We're effectively building an electric fuel card for a growing market of electric vehicle charging. We believe that market will be $3.5 billion by 2025, and that will only be 6% of our entire car park of vehicles in Europe that are electrified. We've aggregated a number of networks across the growing market in the UK. There's 75 networks in the UK, you heard of one of them earlier. There's hundreds across Europe. How do we make this easier for drivers to find, charge, and pay? We believe there's significant growth potential in this market from the rollout of electric vehicles, more public charging as people move away from just those who can charge at home to those who are required to charge in public. and we're expanding our geography across Europe. We've achieved traction on both sides of the marketplace with a number of charge point operators who are both UK and European focused, and fleets signing up. We're seeking £500,000, and we've arranged our first investors to bring that round together to expand our technical team, build on our technical capabilities, and ultimately to deliver some of the functionality we believe is required in this market, including plug and charge, which is the simplification of that experience that Tesla drivers benefit from. So you might be surprised to hear me say that we don't believe the future of public charging is in apps and cards. We believe that you will find your charge point with the car. We believe that you will drive up to that charge point and plug in and the charging will start automatically, and that you'll pay with a single bill rather than the multiple subscriptions required today. Our position in the market will give us access to proprietary insights, a pricing strategy, and together we will enable cleaner transport. Thank you for your time. I look forward to speaking to you afterwards.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Carl-Henny. I'm Managing Director and founder of Ty6 Limited. We are delivering lightweighting for a net zero aviation future. This little tube weighs about 35 grams, same as a packet of crisps, but it will carry 5,000 kilos. An African elephant, 2 Range Rovers. Materials like this will transform CO2 reduction in aviation. One of the problems with aviation is you've got to take mass out. Landing gear is heavily loaded in a very demanding environment. It needs high-strength metals to do that. But metals are pretty standard, except for ours. We can take 40% out of current parts and up to 70% for future aircraft and future systems. That could equate to 4.5 million tonnes of CO2 reduction on the A320 fleet now. We've got a £2.5 million grant to develop landing gear technology at the moment. We're delivering technologies for both the aviation and the space sector. That space sector work means we're now working into liquid hydrogen for future aircraft with new tank technologies. That'll deliver about a 4.5 million turnover by 2024 and growth significantly beyond that as we go through 2030. We've generated 13.2 million in revenues to date, 1.5 million of management investment, and we'll have a turnover around about 3.2 million this financial year. We're asking for £1.8 million to develop our team, continue to develop our technology, to enable us to make further penetration into the customers we work with, the Airbuses, the Rolls-Royces, the Safrans of this world, the major players in aviation. Ty6 technology will transform global aviation and start their progress on delivering on their promises today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen, and to all of the presenters. How cool are these technologies? Seriously? So good. So now that we've had the sustainable transportation mini pitches, we're going to have the first of our panel discussions. So I'm delighted to introduce and bring up our first panel. We have Dr. Poonam Malik, firstly, from Strathclyde University, Head of Investments. We have Neil Foster, who's Chair of Global Technology for international legal firm Brown Rudnick, and we have Sarah Petrie, who's Director of Innovation at Michelin Scotland Innovation Park. So, please. So we have a 15-minute panel discussion on what we've heard and the sustainable transportation sector in general. Thank you for joining us, guys. Before we get into the specific questions, I just wondered if anybody had any direct observations or questions for any of the ventures that we just heard from.
I would just like to make a comment that I thought the whole supply chain was there. So there was the material to make the plane, and then there are the EV points as well as there is the charging point card for there. So I think looks like the whole, if the companies can collaborate, they can create the market, and it's all, future is here.
Couple of missing technologies in there as well. Batteries, obviously, you know, lithium maybe not the ideal technology, but seems to be dominating at the moment. So I was kind of hoping that there'd be a new battery technology there, but maybe next time.
Next time, yeah. Sarah, anything?
No, I thought they were all very inspiring. Thank you very much, guys. I guess the question I would maybe like to pitch back is, in some of your cases, there's probably a requirement for some kind of behaviour change, which is quite difficult to encourage people to change behaviours when it impacts on them going about their daily lives. I'm just thinking, have you guys thought about that and how to encourage people to change behaviours?
We have a roving mic if anybody wants to attempt an answer or has a specific... Neil?
Neil's itching.
Mask is coming off. Spike, do we have the mic? Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah, for the observation. We were working with DFT, Department for Transport, and their innovation grants to explore a plug-and charge capability. And we were fortunate to win an award from the Chief Scientific Advisor for potential and growth opportunity, because in her words, as a human factors expert, that simplification, is so small, the ability not to have to press a button, tiny adjustment enables people to go, actually, this is a technology I can adopt. So yeah, the human element, the human factors element is a huge part of how we help people make it really simple.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
Anyone else? Behaviour change? Morton?
Yeah, I guess that a bike that looks like a car creates a need for a different kind of view. But what we're actually seeing is that consumers are quite eager to get it. As I said, we got 2,000 adding to our website asking to buy it. It's surprisingly how much they're early adopters. And now we're also seeing B2B getting quite interest. You would probably have to look to Germany to see where this is evolving quickly. So you have the gorillas coming up with a lot of drivers. Now they're looking for better comfort. You have all the B2B actually looking for when can it get cargo bikes with capacity. So the human behavior is coming as part of this kind of hyper development changing. And I think the fact that we had COVID has created this kind of multi-industry disruptiveness that is creating a lot of opportunity for startups and innovation in this clean tech.
Just one point that I was thinking about, besides the behavioral change which is required from all angles, is there a regulatory aspect that's required? For example, when I was young, I used to think about that, Star Wars was very good, you could just fly things in there, and I think that vision has come with your bike, four-wheeled bike on the road, but the question will be, how is the e-bike regulation changing in line with the traffic and congestion on the road, and how will they compete with the speed limits and on the same?
That's a good question. Part of all, it's according to the existing regulations on bikes. Secondly, cities and EU is trying to get more cargo bikes into it, so all the incentives. And thirdly, they're looking into regulations to make cargo bikes more available. So multi-track bikes is coming in. I'm part of a standardization in Europe for how to handle the risk on cargo bikes. So we're putting in all these efforts, and EU is complying to it. Even ISO, the standardization globally, is looking into it. So they all want it because they want to have this shift from car traffic to cycling. So in that part, they're looking for this. It's not about cargo bikes being in the way for traffic. It's the traffic's being away for the cargo bikes.
Okay, thank you, Morton. And the actual e-cargo bike is out in the lobby in case anybody missed it, if you want to see the physical hardware. All right, so let's talk about some of the topics that we wanted to delve into within the sector. Transportation seems to be one of the clean tech sectors that is very much going in the right direction, I think, compared to some of the hard to abate sectors. We have a unicorn, Tesla, that everyone can point to. Actually, super unicorn, $1 trillion market cap. So it feels like the investment world has done a good job so far in the transportation sector. The handoff from government grants and incentives into private capital. I would like to explore with Neil initially, could it be the case, dare I say, that government are getting a few things right here?
It's rather unusual sitting on a panel and actually saying that government has, over a period of time, got some things right. You won't very often hear that, but the landscape has been transformed here in the UK by EIS, by Patent Box and other things. And my first deal in clean tech was Tesla Lotus joint venture. And British technology and an American company and a Canadian, or is he a South African, or is he a Californian, or now a Texan? And so, so we've got international technologies. We've got a whole load of R&D here, and a lot of that has been fostered in our universities, which is an amazing ecosystem, and grants and EIS. And what we're seeing ourselves is that, I mean, I've been through the burst of certain bubbles in clean tech over those 18 years. But at the moment, actually, I'm not saying it's easy raising a Series A, but actually this country is third in the world for startups, but only 13th for scale-ups. So actually now, because governments have been doing a good job, universities have been doing a great job, but how do we then get the Series Bs and Cs? And that's a big challenge now. But I mean, today is predominantly about getting a Series A.
Yeah.
But it's kicked it down the road a little bit.
I think all these guys would love to have that problem, right? Oh, I just can't get my Series C, so we all look forward to that, right? Great, and I think we have representatives of an accelerator and universities here on the panel, so I wonder what you guys think of the role that your organizations are playing in that phase.
In terms of the finance or the innovation? Innovation, yeah. So obviously, universities are natural innovation powerhouse. I would say they're innovation factories, literally, because the innovation that comes out is unparalleled, and naturally, their motto is knowledge made useful. The question that comes is that how do we make that innovation practical? How do we make that solving real world challenges? And sometimes that used to be the disconnect. That you create, it sits on the bench, even IP, patent box is showing, unless industry, there is a pull from there, and business. So it should be accessible, it should be a common platform. At the moment, I'm working with the government, Scottish Government's Life Sciences Group, where we are trying to look for some solutions where we can follow best practices. But if an SME has a challenge, they should know the front gate where to go, yes. And rather than finding it and not having access to it. Then there is, and then universities have multiple challenges, like certain companies among here, and you're 26 for 26, there's partnering with academia because there are challenges, there's collaboration among academics themselves. So knowing how to solve that challenge, that solution comes. And academia itself is becoming more active in startups because there is R&D budget increasing, but the jobs, where are they going to come from? They're coming from startups, and as a result, all universities are moving into the venturing arena. Yeah. And that venturing, you need to put your skin in the game. So that's the question, and as a result, support the startups in that journey, whether they are spin-ins or whether they are spin-outs or startups, but working together, we can reach there, and that's probably is the triple helix or quadruple helix now with the behavioral change of citizen. Yeah. They need to be there, public sector, private sector, and academia.
Yeah, I think innovation for innovation's sake, maybe that's an element of what's behind the startup versus scale-up, because I think my partners would agree, many of the ventures that aren't here tonight, that didn't make the 26 for 26, have amazing technology, but have not proven the market demand for it. And it's an easy mistake to make when you're an innovator. But I think that's a common theme among what you guys said. Conscious of the time, I think, Sarah, your business is the embodiment of the just transition in some ways, with the Phoenix from the Flames, with the Michelin factory. Yeah. I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about the role of accelerators in this whole process.
I think I'm quite well positioned here between Poonam and Neil here. So yes, I think the conversation about the universities being the kind of knowledge powerhouses and the ideas and the thinkers, and the investors coming in behind those, there's a gap in the middle where the role of accelerators and people who can support companies to get their company in a position to be investable, to introduce them to investors, to help support that kind of growth phase is really important. So to take people who are chief bottle washer and toilet cleaner and everything in between, to people who are heavily tuned into the financial systems and how to make a company work. We need to try and make that marriage much more easy and share that language of conversation so that the companies that are presenting to investors can actually talk in the right language and present their businesses in a in an investable way. So the role of accelerators is really important in that, to support the companies in their growth journey and to make sure that they do get past the Series A and grow on and become scale-ups. And that's actually absolutely where Mitchell and Scotland Innovation Park is trying to play, is to support young companies to grow and develop and to scale.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with Michelin Innovation Park, I encourage you to check it out. It's incredible. In fact, I think you have an event on Thursday and
Friday. Anybody that wants to come along, we have a large-scale event in Dundee on Thursday and Friday, and it promises to be an absolutely cracking event. Some of the companies from here are participating. So,
I'm just reflecting on what you all said, and having worked with all of these guys over the last 6 months, it's still difficult at the coalface, and I'm kind of looking to my partners here, you know, at that early stage when really these guys are promoting not the technologies that are being adopted today, but probably the technologies that mainstream industry are going to be adopting in 3 to 5 years, and getting that first purchase order. I think every single person in that group has lived that pain of getting a client. Yes, you don't need it today, but it is a gap in your technology roadmap 3 years from now. You might not know it yet, but I know that it is. And I think some of the ventures in that group have done a great job of leveraging public finance to de-risk those demonstration projects, to get that first bit of field history and that reference list. I think, any thoughts on that?
May I? I'd encourage those in clean tech, especially we heard that, you know, you mentioned it's not just software, it's about hardware. And actually, and we were talking earlier about the parallels between biotech, business models, and getting that first customer and getting paid. And it can't just be on a software model or a license royalty model later, because you need upfronts, you need milestones. So the life sciences world has got 30 years worth of precedence on how to do those customer contracting. And for every pound of recurring revenue on a customer contract, you're worth 30 times as much, or however much it is, could be more than that. Every pound of equity, vitally important to get there, but you're worth £1 more. So scaling that up, you know, pilots of vital, etc., but getting that first validation from the corporation that doesn't have to buy your product, but buys your product, and then getting paid. So I encourage you to look at the biotech industry over 30 years as an analog for getting paid.
Yeah, and we work with a lot of corporate VC funds, you know, big corporations who use these technologies, and often we find that their capital, their checkbook is very valuable to these businesses, but more important is the ability to create field history, create demonstrations, and you know the Wood Groups, the Ineoses of this world, and the like. They have a role to play that's not about writing checks. It's about helping de-risk through controlled field studies. We're into the last minute of this panel discussion, so I just want to remind the investors in the room, if you liked what you saw, get registered for the deal room, get in and do your diligence. If you're online, you can do it real time. If you're in the room, please don't do it real time. Please pay attention to the stage. Maybe some of the businesses that you've seen have already earned your green casino token, who knows, just to remind you, be thinking about that. Please join me in thanking our panelists for that discussion. We'll get one more point. Poonam has one more quick point before we wrap.
Sorry, I can't let it go without saying that. So we are sitting in a company startup world and investors room full and 1,300, 1,600 watching us. So the point of diversity in a sustainable world, I can't let it go that less than 2% of venture capital funding and any kind of a funding throughout the chain goes to female founders. If you are a person of color, it goes down to less than 0.5%. Looking at the 26 companies, I see D here. We heard hydrogen systems, one more female. So I suppose a challenge to the 4 partners, all of you are males, maybe get 4, and it's a two-pronged bomb because the startup founders, but it's on the other side of the table. If the investors are not female, they don't see role models. So a challenge for both of you. Next time we'll see more.
Touche, Poonam. Okay, thank you to the first panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Challenge very much accepted and acknowledged. Ladies and gentlemen, now we're into the blue economy. Some fantastic companies to come, and then an excellent panel. So, without further ado, what I'd like to do is ask my friend and colleague Rens Leesman to kick off the blue economy cohort. Rens, over to you.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, everyone. 35 billion versus 10,000. This is an amazing stat, if for no other reason that it underscores just how much the ocean economy lags in decarbonization, digitization, autonomy, and really, truthfully, any other macro trend that's dominated the terrestrial economy over the last decade or so. But why is this? Why is it so far behind? Well, it's so far behind simply because the ocean is a power desert. Anytime you want to do anything in the ocean, you have to take people and power to get it done. That's costly, it's complex, and it's carbon intensive. We solved this problem by turning that power desert into an energized, data-rich environment. We have three products that we use to fill this market, and we are serving the largest part of the offshore power market, this gap that's roughly between 10 watts and 10 megawatts that neither wind nor solar can properly satisfy. Now, the Sea-Ray, which is our first product to commercialize, you can think of that system as an offshore cell charger, data server, and a cell tower, but offshore. And we deliver a very significant value proposition for our customers, some 50 to 90% cost and carbon reduction. I think highlighting the impact that our system can have, we have this growing, robust pipeline, and we're focused on 4 essential use cases: subsea robotics, data gathering and communication systems, operating kit, and at-sea vessel charging. So tens of thousands of hours of engineering, testing, design, manufacturing, supported by roughly 20 million pounds of competitively won federal R&D grants. We have 10 million of private capital to date that has enabled our first product to be sold. We have 50 patents with more of those things coming, and we are currently raising a Series C to commercialize and to help deliver profitability on our first product. So with that, I'll close. Thank you very much. I look forward to talking to you about our opportunity, and as Mark and Andrew have said, please look at our profile and deal them. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yannick Nyberg, and I'm the founder and director of Seawater Solutions, a company founded in Glasgow that's been terraforming deserts all over the world with seawater. Now, there's over 3,000 different plants globally that can grow with salt water. And Dennis Bushnell, the longest-serving chief scientist at NASA, one of our advisors, says that these ecologies solve for land and uniquely solve for land, water, climate, and food. And that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years, turning deserts into productive agroecologies that store millions of tons of carbon and create a whole lot of food. But over the last couple of years, we thought, well, the value here isn't just in agriculture and carbon, it's in the land itself as a real estate asset. If we're buying cheap land, undervalued land all around the world, and transforming it and terraforming it, we're actually creating functional and high-value real estate assets that are bankrolled by carbon credits, layering economic models from tourism to agriculture. This is climate asset management. So you're probably wondering, this is a bit too good to be true. Well, we're doing this, and we've been doing this for a very, very long time, from East Africa to Southeast Asia to the Americas. Now, as a proud Glaswegian company, founded here at the University of Strathclyde, we're excited to welcome you all to one of our projects here, right across the river from COP26 at the Govan Wetlands. And we have an open day on Thursday at 5 p.m. Find out more at bluegreenglasgow.org and, of course, at seawatersolutions.org. We don't take equity, but we do offer deals in which, if you give us $10 million through debt finance and other vehicles, we develop that land that you own around the world, and within 3 years, pay you back $30 million financed by carbon credits. And if the carbon credit market suddenly disappears overnight, well, you still have a high-value land asset that's worth 20 times more than when you purchased it. My name is Yannick Nyberg, and this is Desert Greening 101. Thank you very much.
I'm sort of virtual and not virtual. I was pitched as virtual, so we've got a film. What happened? Oh, I've got my, got my badge on. So I don't know when my 2 minutes have started. They have. Am I just pressing this? Yeah, okay. So, shipping. We all know it, we all use it, but we don't realise quite how impactful it is. It comes at a price. About the same amount of carbon as most developed countries. What can we do to change it? We can use technology that has been used for 8,000 years. There are 40,000 ships in the world that can be retrofitted or built with wind assist. So we've worked commercially with Drax to provide the demand pull for our autonomous retractable, recyclable sails that will save 20% fuel. We can do all of this in the UK, but we're specifically interested in Scotland. We can create thousands of jobs, save hundreds of tons of carbon, and we like to work across the whole supply chain with hardware, with the digital enablers, and with the financial solutions. We're working really closely with Malin on the Clyde. We've developed a plug-and-play system. We've been hugely well supported by Scottish Enterprise to de-risk this project. And we have been able to design a £6 million project that we have 75% of the funding secured for from Scottish Enterprise and from industry partners. This is a truly collaborative project that can change the world. We can save between 1% and 2% of total greenhouse gas emissions. So we're looking for you to join us and help us over the line.
Hello, I'm Derek Robertson, CEO of Subsea Micropiles. It's very good to be with you all. We are a marine foundations company focused on the offshore wind market. Micropile technology has been around for about 70 years, and it has grown to become the dominant foundation and anchor technology for onshore infrastructure. Our mission as a company is to lead its adaptation for offshore construction. And we think there's a very big prize in doing so by reducing the cost of delivered anchors and foundations by half, while also at the same time reducing the environmental impacts of construction. Also, opening up more seabed to development. Developers currently avoid rocky, challenging formations. We make those formations accessible for offshore wind. We do this on the back of a revolution in subsea robotics, including the advent of robotic seabed drilling systems, which are used for geotechnical survey. They are form and function the tools we need to do micropiling offshore. And why does that matter? Because the world's biggest bet for a sustainable energy future, or one of them, is offshore wind. And as we migrate into new markets globally, with increasingly larger turbines and moving into deeper water, floating structures, the seabed is getting more challenging. And the legacy solutions we have from oil and gas are expensive. They are impactful to the environment. They are not scalable for offshore wind. And this is indeed our opportunity and our focus as a mission. The industry is catching up to this fact, and we've had an extraordinary year, both in terms of client engagement as well as supply chain partnerships. We have won over £6 million in government R&D grants within the past 6 months, and our near-term sales pipeline is moving north of £20 million. We are near closing on a seed round of investment, but the overwhelming challenge now looking into 2022 is scaling up, and we will be raising additional funds for growth capital and expansion. Looking forward to meeting you all. Thanks very much for your time.
So far, nobody's really unlocked the full potential of tidal energy. 50,000 terawatt hours per annum, that's what the ocean has to offer to us during the transition towards a renewable energy system. My name is Andries van Uden. I'm pleased to tell you more about power production driven by the moon, tidal power. As long as the moon, the earth and gravity exist, there will be tidal energy. But, there's a big but. So far we didn't make it. But Tocado has made a strategic decision. We are purely focused on turbine development. We've installed a device in the Eastern Scheldt storm barrier in the Netherlands already in 2015, and since then we start collecting data and knowledge, and we will apply that knowledge towards the future developments tide after tide. Hope it's working. Oh, sorry, it doesn't working. But what's unique about Tocado? We have a passive pitching mechanism, so our blades flip when the tide turns. We've got no gearbox, we've got a very straightforward design, and that's what will make it happen. Our installation costs are low because our turbines can be shipped in a container. And we think that's the ideal way to unlock this market, because in the regions in the East, Indonesia, Korea, that's where you need to bring turbines on locations which are quite remote. Tocado is the first full commercial turbine developer. Together with our business partners QED Naval and Hydrowing, we can provide the clients an end-to-end service solution by investigating the site, developing the site, supply the turbines, operate the turbines, maintain them, and finally also decommission them. We are looking for 2 million to increase our business model, to expand our global footprint, because unlocking the market requires capital, and we are now at the stage from moving from development of technology towards commercialization of this technology. We are happy to meet you afterwards.
Hello, I'm Sam Mail, founder and CEO of Xelim, and I wanted to start this quick presentation with two quite stark facts. The first is 80% of deaths from drowning occur in the first 30 minutes after entry into the water. And the second, in the last 10 years, there's been over 60 fatalities and 160 serious injuries of the testing of lifeboats alone. So why are we putting people in harm's way? Our mission at Xelim is to make unmanned search and rescue the norm and help build the wind farms and the shipping communities of the future. We do this by providing new links in the search and rescue chain, looking at how we find people in the water, how we recover them from the water, and importantly, how we protect them from that environment. We do this all without putting people in harm's way. Search and rescue wherever and whenever you need it. Because our technology doesn't sleep. It doesn't wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and think about its family and wonder whether or not it's going to return. It just goes. So, about us. We're a company founded by mariners who've had first-hand experience of knowing what it feels like to turn up late. Between us, we have experience of over 3 exits and 30 years plus experience of tech commercialization in the maritime and defence sectors. We're supported by regulators, including Her Majesty's Coast Guard, one of the UK's largest shipping companies, and 3 of the world's largest offshore wind developers. With £3 million of R&D funding nearing completion, we're now ready to commercialise. We're looking for £2.5 million to fund this, and we've already secured over £1 million from previous investors in previous rounds. We're currently backed by leaders in the offshore wind sector and in the oil and gas sectors. Just to close, 80% of deaths occur in the first 30 minutes after entry into the water. If you believe, like we believe, that we can change the game with this, we'd like to chat to you.
Hi, I'm Ken Morrow, founder of Hydrowheel, and we're looking for an investment of £300,000 to help bring Hydrowheel to markets worldwide and Ocean Hydrowheel to the prototype stage. Now, some of you may have noticed that I've brought my children, Brodie and Keir, along too. Firstly, to show Hydrowheel is so simple that even their dad can set it up. But secondly, as a reminder that we are all here for our children. And I don't just mean that they will inherit our climate disaster. I mean that we have to prove to them that we really can invest in the future, that we can inspire startups and innovators and groundbreaking new technologies. Let's teach our children by example, because to fix our mess, they must learn to invest and innovate too. So this is our example, the award-winning Hydrowheel, the world's first inflatable water wheel, and it can be manufactured in the developing world from recycled plastics. Because it's inflatable, it floats. It's easy to transport and install in even the most isolated areas. But it doesn't need support structures or dams or channels. There are fewer surveys, less damage to local ecosystems. And the benefits of a large, durable, inflatable turbine also work for tidal and ocean currents. Ocean Hydrowheel, inflated with seawater and tethered below the wave action, can generate reliable electricity all year round. And yet it fits in a standard shipping container, not the entire ships you need to transport and install offshore wind turbines. Come and partner with us, and let's prove to our children that we can build a more sustainable world. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we transition to the Blue Economy panel discussion, I'll invite up, just to demonstrate how organic our agenda is today, a slightly different group than you're seeing on screen. First of all, Claire Mack, the CEO of Scottish Renewables, and then a friend, a colleague, a sometime Greenbacker, Mr. Jim Wilson. Please come up and join me. Whilst they're coming up, could I ask the Blue Economy cohort please to stand up, to turn around, and to say hi to everybody here and online. Please, a round of applause for the Blue Economy cohort, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. Jim, Claire, thank you very much indeed for joining me here. What I'd like to explore with you a little bit, both, is Scotland's place in the Blue Economy. And because I see the journey that Scotland has been on, setting fantastic, ambitious targets, and then certainly being something of a sandbox for wave energy, for tidal energy, for floating wind. Claire, I'd love your observations as CEO of a trade body which represents the whole renewable sector on the role the Blue Economy can and does play in Scotland.
Absolutely. So largely my perspective comes from the wave and tidal sector, who are obviously one of the key technologies that we represent as Scottish Renewables. And I think one of the things that I always emphasise about wave and tidal, everybody has heard of the wave and tidal sector because it's great. It makes sense to people. They really understand it, and they understand how the technology works and why it works, which is great. But here in Scotland, it's not just about us having a few projects sort of dotted here and there. That's what I think is really, really important, and one of the reasons why we have that world leadership role, and one of the reasons why we really need to do everything we can to secure and maintain it, is that, aside from some fantastic projects of different scales, obviously tidal stream sitting closer to commerciality than wave, but that everything takes that same path, and we all know it. We've seen it happen in offshore wind, and and there's no reason why those technologies shouldn't do the same thing as offshore wind have done, with the same opportunities and supports that go on behind it. Is because it's an ecosystem. So, like I say, there's a clutch of brilliant projects, but they're all held together by glue, which is effectively, you've got institutions at play here. So you've got regulatory institutions, you've got academic institutions and research institutions that are all working towards that same goal, which is to see wave and tidal, become commercial. Aside from that, we also have, we've got people and skills. So I have lost count of the amount of panels over the course of COP that I've sat on where, people who worked on Palamas have been there. And we need to get into the mode of not celebrating Palamas as such, but understanding that what that's left is a really strong legacy of people who understood what went wrong, understood how to take it forward, and actually are, because they're all still sitting in the sector. They're still seeing them on these panels. And so that, I think that's one of the things that we need to really be aware of, is having the people and skills as well in that space, which have stayed here. And then you've got a really great sort of set of off-takers that are starting to come around about all of this. We've got marine technology sitting within the hydrogen supply chain now. We've got them sitting within an industrial decarbonisation supply chain now amongst distilleries and other people who are now sort of taking an interest in that technology. And that ability to really reach some of the parts of our kind of country with energy that is very difficult to deploy, and it's got that real kind of adaptability and that ability to go there. But one of the other key points that's always emphasised by the industry is, of course, supply chain opportunity, and Wave and Tidal have made it part of their USP to have incredibly high local content as part of what they do, because they recognise that they're part of a maritime heritage, but maritime future as well. And I think that's one of the key stories that I always like to wrap around our wave and tidal technology piece, is that not just a clutch of projects, far more to it, and far more to maintaining that global lead than just a few projects that could rise and fall.
Indeed, yeah. And Jim, I think you and I first sort of met, as it were, when I was in Scottish Investment Bank and privileged to be running a fund there, and you were kind enough to step in as an observer director into one of the world's first big tidal energy projects. But you also have a background in a big energy business and in the venture arm of an energy business, and now you've been placed on some boards in the blue economy and energy sectors, which gives you a real interesting perspective on all of that. And I wonder whether you'd just like to comment on observations, things that you've seen work in the blue economy sector, particularly in the offshore wind sector, and things where perhaps supply chain hasn't been able to capture the opportunities that do appear in front of us, if that's not too sort of broad a subject for you, Jim.
No, that's correct. And don't forget aquamarine power, of course, where one of the early pioneers in wave power. And Claire's completely correct what she says about the supply chain. It's the one thing probably that differentiates marine energy from offshore wind that we're seeing today, is the fact that the local supply chain is so strong. Both in the Maygen project and much of the work that was done in Aquamarine and Palamas before they sadly ceased to exist as such. So yeah, I think there's tremendous opportunity in the sector. But the challenge it has is probably the fact that it's been superseded to a certain extent by the success of offshore wind. And unfortunately, I think the government could fall into the trap of thinking that offshore wind was really the be-all and end-all for renewable energy in the UK. And I mean, that's understandable because the costs have dropped to such a low level. But there are other benefits in tidal power, that we know of, the predictability of it. And then in wave power, there's the fact that it's applicable all over the world. So these are two things I feel that certainly the government needs to take account of, and hopefully they'll actually go ahead with the ring-fence funding for the sector and go ahead and make some project awards. And that would allow companies like Maygen to go out there and start building out the next phase. If offshore wind's the best example you will see of the learning curve reducing the costs from projects receiving £300 per megawatt hour down to figures now at 40 and 50. It's tremendous success. And we could do the same thing for marine energy, just given the time.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think is probably quite important for folks to understand is the wave and tidal sectors absolutely do have a role to play. And I'm going to ask Rens Leesman to come up to the mic because I want to bring you in a minute, Rens, if you wouldn't mind, please. But the history of support from Scotland PLC is genuinely very, very strong in this sector, and actually. Some of the early businesses that didn't proceed led to the creation of Wave Energy Scotland. And the interesting thing about that is that there's a European version of that now coming to the fore, following very much the same model. But Rens, the reason I asked you to come up was, yes, the wave energy sector in competing with offshore wind when they're selling electrons is one thing. But Rens, I think in the journey you've been on, you've not been competing to sell electrons, but solutions. Is that right? And I'd just like you to talk a little bit about that, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, we hold that ultimate mission to deliver utility scale power like other wave and tidal companies. But what we started to understand about 4 or 5 years ago when we did a project for the US military was that power and data were incredibly important. And it's not about the cost of the next electron, it's about how you deliver power and data where there is none today. And so that is, as someone once told me, you just want to be on the right corner when the marching band comes by. And that's, I think, where we find these smaller, lower power systems where they currently are. Because it is about being able to do something which you can't do. A ship which supports an ROV, that electricity costs about $1,500 a kilowatt hour. So it's orders of magnitude more expensive than what you would pay. And so if we can come out and reduce that cost, reduce that complexity, then I think it's a win. And that then just begets utility scale systems as we go forward. So it's one step and it's one foot in front of the other in order to get to the ultimate goal at the end of the path.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes.
Thanks very much, Rens.
Yes.
Hope you maybe dropping that on you. So Claire, one of the things I'd like to kind of draw out from you as CEO of the membership body for renewables in Scotland is your sense of the health of that sector, just as reflected in the membership and in the, for example, the fantastic event we have each year, which is coming again in Edinburgh, just to get a sense of given we're here at COP and given there can be a little bit of a tendency to think this is all too hard and to be a little bit depressed and about it's not moving forward quickly enough. Can you give us a sense or your sense of that and what the enthusiasms are around the sector?
No, there's always a great amount of enthusiasm around the sector. Like I say, I think people, I always say that people stand in the ocean, they feel the power of it, they understand, what's in there and would, are backing it, they want to see it happen. I think where I'm seeing the conversation changing a bit, or seeing a lot of the conversation change actually, was when offshore wind, Jim's absolutely right about that at the moment, UK government, they've got a job to do, they're looking for big bang for buck. That is, they've got to get to net zero and they know that they need a lot of new renewable power in order to do that. So, in some senses, I can understand the path that they're taking. What is good is that if I go back to when I started at Scottish Renewables about 4 years ago or so, they genuinely had no concept and weren't really interested in a conversation around about smaller scale. They'd ended the FIT. And I don't see that coming back. It's not going to come back. We need to think about a different route to market mechanism for smaller scale technologies. But also we've got a number of technologies, like I say, who are just on the cusp of commerciality and can probably start to see themselves in that contracts for difference mechanism. I think what I'm thinking about is part of the trade body and is helping the ones who are those frontier companies get there, and some of that will be a stepping stone, and that's one of the conversations that we're having at a Scottish level is about, Scottish Government has got a very long track record of supporting this because they understand the scale of the resource here, and why our geography is particularly good for wave and tidal technology given the amount of coastline that we have. So that's what we're sort of trying to work up just now alongside industry and some of those players that you're talking about is what does that stepping stone look look like. This isn't about, we're very well aware Scottish Government can't offer something of the scale of a CFD, something of on the longer term as that, but that's not what we're needing here. Actually, what we need is just something just to help get us onto that rung. And I can tell you that we were having very similar conversations, with floating offshore wind and wave and tidal in the same conversations those sort of 4 years ago, and now floating is not there anymore because they have been able to push on around that sort of manufacturing point. That's been a really key point, and they've been able to really sort of demonstrate to UK government that sort of cost reduction pathway, and wave and tidal are doing that same thing, and you saw it in the presentations that came in there. Everybody was talking about modularized systems, talking about being able to ship them in containers, export market, that's really exciting, really, really exciting. True, us exporting renewable technology, I mean, that's really where you want to get to, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty amazing stuff. And Jim, I was privileged to attend earlier this week a shipping conference, and some amazing things going on in the shipping sector. And just reflecting on Diane's presentation, Jim, I know you're not a specialist in shipping, but the idea of shipping decarbonising and using these retrofitted amazing sails, and perhaps those sorts of ships being used to help deploy offshore wind. Do you see a real future for that? Do you see, with the hat you used to wear working for a big utility, do you see those businesses being interested in that sort of development, so able to deliver the equipment they need, the hardware they need to site, but in a decarbonised way? Do you see that being a driver for them, Jim?
I certainly hope so. I mean, I'm a keen sailor myself, and anything that gets a vessel around the world using less carbon than they use at the moment has to be the way forward. And I'm glad you moved it on really from marine energy, because I thought we had an excellent group of people presenting there. And in some ways, electricity generation, renewable electricity generation in the UK is effectively sorted for me, or certainly within the foreseeable future. The technologies now exist, and as I said, maybe tidal and wave need to get a fairer crack of the whip. But some of the technologies that these companies are using to address carbon emissions, we're actually moving into the area now, the harder to abate emissions. And I certainly think shipping with sails, or other renewable fuels or other means of getting around the world more efficiently is the way to go. But I liked a number of the other presentations as well, and it's really good to see such a strong cohort here today looking at the blue economy and where we can make a difference.
Indeed. And Jim, I know originally you hail from Ayrshire, I believe, and Seawater Solutions, you should talk to them later. They actually pump seawater onto a farmer's field, with permission, I hasten to say, and grew a crop there. And guys, it is amazing. All of these people are amazing. I would encourage you to engage with them online and also in our exhibition area if you can. Jim, Claire, we'll come to the end of our panel. I'd like to thank you both very much indeed. Please, ladies and gentlemen, Claire and Jim, thank you. If you would like to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my great pleasure to introduce Ivan McKee, Minister for Business, Trade, Tourism and Enterprise, a member of the Scottish Parliament. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the constitutional makeup of the United Kingdom, congratulations. I was going to say something else there, but my team told me not to. Ivan McKee gave a keynote address to the Greenbackers November online event, which, along with our May event last year and the feedback and consultations we had with the technology providers and with investors, actually led us to our online showcase and led us to today. Ivan's roles in manufacturing businesses and managing companies in the UK and Poland and Finland and Croatia and Bosnia, and his work with the voluntary services overseas in Bangladesh mean, well, he gets it. He understands what we are trying to do. And as well as thanking Ivan for joining us in person at a very, very busy time for all Scottish ministers and for Ivan in particular, I wanted to thank his staff for helping to make it possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Ivan McKee.
Thank you very much. That was, I've done several speaking events today, but that was by far and away the most generous introduction I've had, so really do appreciate that and welcome everyone here. If you're not from Glasgow and you're here for COP or here for this event, welcome to this wonderful city, and if you are online, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are, and we're delighted to have you here with us. And thanks very much to Greenbackers for putting this event on. I'm glad I had some small part in inspiring this event taking place. That's wonderful to hear, and it's I've made sure I got here because I want to talk to you because this is important. The SuperPitch event has been great. I had a real opportunity to spend some time earlier on this afternoon before I was whisked away to something else to get round and network and have a chat with some of the businesses that are presenting here and some technology that just blows your mind. And this is all about, and this COP is all about connecting up that wonderful technology, those investable opportunities with the money that's here in the room, in the city and around the world to be able to make the most of that and drive that net zero transition that's also important to us. So important for businesses, for investors, for the planet. Things are changing. Certainties that we used to have are no longer there. I've spoken to the insurance business, the pensions business, investment business over this past week. And when you look at it through that lens, the climate change is a huge risk for those insurance policies, but also a tremendous opportunity for all investors to be able to be part of this exciting new future. But fair to say also a lot of uncertainty because from very large global corporates that are in all kinds of sectors, right down to smaller investors, there's a real lack of certainty around about what's happening in terms of that risk-reward profile. Where do you go? What do you do? Who do you talk to? What do you invest in? How much risk are you prepared to take to not miss the boat, to be in the right place at the right time? And how do you avoid some of those challenges that are out there? So there's a lot to think about, and the conversations I've been having over the past week have really brought that into sharp focus. It's all about that technology and that finance and putting them together, and it's about what role can we as government play to help support that. And that's why the work that Greenbackers have done to pull this together has been truly exceptional and just great to see. And the amount of investors, serious investors that have engaged in this process is just wonderful. From Scotland's perspective, we are really proud. We're the first country in the world to declare the climate emergency. We have made great progress, not just on the policy framework round about that, but on the delivery side. We're now at a point where 100% of the electricity we use in Scotland is generated from renewable sources, something we're hugely proud of. And we are moving forward to decarbonise heat and transport at pace. We've got world-leading technology, and it was great to hear the last panel talk about this, and offshore wind built on our decades of deep water experience, and the technology behind the floating offshore wind platforms is something to behold. As an engineer, it's remarkable to see the scale and power of that. But right across wave, tidal, and many other technologies, and much of the stuff we saw today that I hadn't even thought of as opportunities, it's great to see what's going on there, and that presents those really powerful investable opportunities. And the Scottish Government is committed to working with investment communities to understand your needs and inform policy decisions as a consequence, and to be a partner where it makes sense. As has been said a lot this week, unlike in previous COPs where it was about public sector money, this is all about private sector money and about what governments can do to help leverage and support that, because the big numbers And I was in a room, I think, earlier on this afternoon at Glasgow University with pension funds who I think between them totaled 42 trillion. So we're talking serious money. That money comes from the private sector, and that's we as government need to make it as easy as possible for that to happen. We work to do that as best we can. We launched the Scottish National Investment Bank in 2020, the UK's first mission-orientated bank with a primary mission to support that transition, just transition to net zero. We published our FDI plan last year, and Scotland has done well in foreign direct investment over the last 8 years. We've been the leading part of the UK outside of London. If you look at R&D investment, we're the leading part of the UK, including London. Last year, in the face of COVID, our inward investment went up 6%. According to the EY figures, the UK was down 12%, the EU down 13%. So we're doing something right. We released this year our Global Capital Investment Plan that looks in a very structured way about how we as government help attract mobile global capital, private sector investment into Scotland, how we work with a pipeline of opportunities that are there to make sure that they are investor ready, how we put that together in a portfolio, how we understand the investment market and know which investors have which risk reward profiles, what scale of investment they're looking for, and how we work with them to make those opportunities presentable to them, and how we work to join all of that up together. So that's in the early stages, but we're hugely proactive in taking that forward. Part of that's our green investment portfolio, where we initially targeted the £3 billion pipeline of projects, from some very small stuff like some of the opportunities you've seen here, some small innovative manufacturing businesses, through to some large infrastructure investment opportunities, and allowing investors to take a portfolio approach to that to help de-risk that process as well. We've delivered £2 billion, we've got another £1 billion to go in this tranche, but all the conversation now is about what the next tranche looks like and how big that can be to satisfy the desire and need for that investment to take those technologies forward, but also, frankly, to satisfy the desire from the investment market to make to create opportunities for money to be placed that is looking for a home as part of this green revolution. So I hope that you have seen Scotland in a good light. I hope you've learned something about what we've got to offer, about the government's commitment to be a partner on that journey, to put our money where our mouth is, to create policies that support that, but more importantly, to understand what investors are looking for and the opportunities that we've got coming down the pipeline to deliver on that. You understand our commitment to that. You understand that Scotland is a hugely connected ecosystem in the renewable energy sector, as you've seen, but also in green finance and right across all of the sectors that are going to support the decarbonisation of our economy and our society going forward, and a huge focus on how we partner internationally to understand how we can best do that, how we join up government, agencies, universities, colleges, our wonderful academic base and skills pipeline, with start-up businesses, with established inward investors and with new investors that are looking to come here. How we deliver all of that, so that if you want to come and do business here, it's very easy. You talk to me, I'll put you in touch with the right people and we'll make it happen. It's as simple as that, and there is a tremendous amount of opportunity that you can take advantage of as a consequence of that. Hugely conscious, I think I'm keeping you from the break, so I shall finish up there, but I'll be around for a short period before I get dragged off to my next event this evening. But thanks again sincerely to Greenbackers for making this happen. Packed the room, you've packed the virtual room, if you like, around the globe as well, but I hope this goes from strength to strength and you're back next year in a bigger hall. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, in another indication of our organic agenda, we are going to take the full half hour and convene back here around about 18:30. Before you go, though, I just want to say to our online audience, please, there are some fantastic films that will be running online. We would ask you to see those. And please, everybody that has pitched already, please stand up, please turn around, please wave at the audience, wave at the online audience. Ladies and gentlemen, our first group, thank you very much indeed. Please enjoy a break. Thank you.
Think Think you know Scotland? Think again. Think innovation. Think big data. Think the data capital of Europe. Think artificial intelligence. Think robotics. Think world firsts. Think world-changing technology. Think having the energy to create change. Think all electricity supplied.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming back. I'm actually not due to be on the stage at this point in time as we've started our live stream, but I wanted to publicly apologise to you here and to our live stream guests. The catering outside wasn't timed correctly. I do apologise for that. As some compensation, we have some haggis, bonbons and Prosecco available at 7 p.m, along with some amazing harp music and Burns songs for you in the room. Online, of course, I really apologise if you couldn't find your coffee. Maybe you haven't been to the supermarket recently, I don't know. With no further ado, I'd like to get our second half going here again by saying hello for the first time today for you to my colleague, John Steedman.
I'm John Steedman, a partner in Greenbackers with Andrew and Mark. I'd like to introduce to you the Energy and Power cohort now. 7 excellent pitches, and then we'll be following that with a short panel. Hello to everyone online. Hello to you in the audience. We'll start with Blockchain Triangle. Yep.
Hey everyone, I'm CEO of Blockchain Triangle. Hold on, don't start yet.
Whoa.
Go back. Go back. Can you stop? Thank you. Hi, Darren Wolfberg, CEO of Blockchain Triangle. First, thank you to the event. It's great to be here. It was said finance needs to drive the green revolution. Now you can hit the button.
Whoa. Start again.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Mike Simpson. I'm the CEO of Cheesecake Energy. We're delivering the world's greenest battery. Bus operators are under huge pressure right now to electrify their fleets. But getting the power to those fleets, to charge those fleets, is hugely costly, and it can be very, very disruptive, digging up the roads. With our system, we can double the charging capacity of their existing site without that hassle. That allows us to electrify sooner and reduce the cost of doing that. Allow me to introduce the e-tanker system. This is the world's greenest battery. We're delivering thermal and compressed air at 30 to 40% lower cost than lithium-ion alternatives. When there's surplus electricity from solar or from the grid, we use ex-service diesel engines to compress air. We use an electric motor to drive the pistons and compress air. As that air is compressed, it heats up. We store the heat in tanks full of gravel and the air in pressure vessels from the compressed natural gas industry. We can deliver 150 kilowatts up to 30 megawatts for 4 to 12 hours. We're targeting huge markets all the way along the electricity value chain, and we're a technology supplier. We're delivering key components to system integrators and licensing their designs. It's a low-cost system, it can be positioned anywhere, and it's really long-lasting as well. We have impeccable green credentials. Raw materials are steel, rock, and air. Our pilot system has been ordered by Nottinghamshire County Council, and we have support from Shell through their Game Changer program, as well as Highways England, Volvo, and more. We're currently completing our prototype storage system. We'll be deploying that with an end user, and we will be looking for strategic channel partners before manufacturing and scale up. And we have a superb team, including a professor of mechanical engineering and a former CEO of the Williams F1 team. We're looking for 3 to 4 million in Q3 of next year. We'd love you to join us. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm Ainsley Chinambiri, the CEO of Chitendai Limited. We are the manufacturer of the iRadiant solar panel, and we co-develop installations that use the iRadiant solar panel. We set up Chitendai on a fundamental basis of care. We care about people, climate, and biodiversity. And because we care, we're continually in search of excellence to be better in a differentiated manner. So we developed the iRadiant solar panel and business models that make electricity more accessible and affordable. Our centerpiece, the iRadiant solar panel, is 43% more efficient and generates up to 4 times more electricity per square meter than standard PV. And with smart technology, we're able to remotely monitor and control the performance of each installed solar panel so that customers, operators, and investors can get performance data in almost real time. iRadiant solar panel is targeted to the solar belt region of the Earth, which means it works well in Southern Europe, Middle East, Asia, South America, and the US and Mexico, where we also have granted patents. But we've targeted Africa, where we've developed a pipeline of work for the next few years, which allows us now to take nearly $48 million of pre-order projects to financial close. Our ESG impact is significant. In Zambia, our program is going to directly impact 500,000 people. It will reduce the cost of electricity by 30%. It will avoid 30,000 tons of CO2 emissions. But more importantly, it will eliminate the 13-hour-a-day power cuts experienced by many hospitals and clinics operated by the United Church of Zambia, which means doctors and nurses can continue to do their good work of saving lives. We're here looking for a $2 million investment, and we've secured already $650,000, and we look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Niall Hoheen. I'm the CEO for Lambda Energy, which is a quantum light engineering company based out of Cambridge. What we're doing is developing active material to manage the light, to ensure that there's maximum efficiency, predominantly to increase the efficiency of solar PV and to plants. We're using 2 different methods. predominantly using nanocrystal materials. One is using luminescent downshifting, which is absorbing the ultraviolet to green and re-emitting to red. And when it comes to solar, which likes the near infrared, what we're taking is the UV to blue and splitting the photons so that it produces 2 infrared. Nice way of looking at it is we got the little UV light. I am hoping you can see it in the background. You see the UV light hits the glass and it turns red. For retrofit, we secured 450 grand to develop a retrofit solution, and we were sponsored by Lightsource BP. That will go on the outside of the glass, absorbing the UV in blue and producing up to 10% increase in output. For agri, we'll incorporate our nanocrystals straight into the plastic, so that it increases the red light and leading to a 20% increase in output, perfect for the likes of strawberry growers in Scotland. We've got 4 academic partners, predominantly Cambridge University, and soon we'll have Glasgow University as one of our plastics experts. It takes a substantial amount of time to get this product to market, but the economic and social impact will be immense. We're looking for patient capital and industrial engagement. We've raised $1.5 million so far in public and private funding, and now we're seeking an extra $1 million to supplement government funding. I thank you for your time.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim Humphreys. I'm a member of the management team and in-house lawyer at Magtor. I'd first of all like to thank Greenbackers very much indeed for giving us the opportunity to present at COP26 today. Magtor has invented an entirely new field of technology, an ultra-high efficiency linear electric motor, bringing energy savings of more than 30%. This is a technology that is going to totally disrupt the global market. Our linear motor will replace the rotary-based motors that are at the heart of the compressors and pumps in thousands of applications, including fridges, air conditioning, and heat pumps. Magtor-driven products will bring dramatically reduced CO2 emissions to many industries, at the same time allowing energy power generation infrastructures to continue to cope with ever-increasing demands. This is an enormous market opportunity for Magtor as the world embarks here in Glasgow today, right now, on the real road to net zero. Our motor will become the dominant global technology, reducing the carbon footprint of every home, vehicle, and business. And our target market is worth a truly eye-watering €221 billion. To overcome barriers to entry, our go-to-market strategy is based on building awareness of our technology with the public and end customers, and also with end customers and with licensing and collaboration with industrial players to ensure the massive and rapid rollout that the world needs. Our growth plan is to start revenue generation in Q1 2024 and to reach gross profits of 276 million by 2030 based on a 5% market share. In this current funding round, we're looking at investment of €2 million and have already secured 60% of this figure. We would be delighted to discuss this opportunity more with you. You can find out information on the Greenbackers platform, or alternatively, you can speak to Martin, Jeremy, or me after the presentation. Thank you.
In these days of clickbait and toxic algorithms, one thing guaranteed to set people against renewables is paying them to switch off. But what if, instead of paying wind farms to stop turning, we could get people to use that green energy when it's cheap and abundant, and avoid using power when it's dirty and expensive. Zoos can help make that happen by providing flexibility to homes and businesses through automatically controlling their energy demand up and down to match generation. We let you be greener and not even notice. Zoos analyzes day-ahead energy pricing, grid carbon intensity, and hyperlocal weather forecasting to optimize energy use and balance the system. By focusing locally, we provide visibility and control to allow more renewables, low-carbon heating, and EV charging to be installed in each neighborhood. While most companies entering the market for domestic flexibility services are downsizing from the C&I sector, deploying expensive hardware solutions to a market with small margins but large volumes, Zoos is taking a bottom-up, software-only approach, which is low-cost, secure, reliable, and rapidly scalable. We've developed a market-leading technology for planning the deployment of low-carbon assets, which is already being trialed by councils, network operators, housing associations, and community energy groups. We're looking for investors based here in Scotland and eligible for EIS. We're looking for investors with seed investment of 800,000 to accelerate our growth and commercial traction towards a Series A round in 18 months. The energy system is changing. Be part of the change. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karthik, founder and co-CEO of Catrick Technologies.
Hi, I'm Vijay Madlani, co-CEO of Catrick Technologies. Please enjoy the video.
We are Catrick Technologies. We're an IP-led green tech business with patents in wind energy and passive cooling. We're looking for £9 million investment for 18% of our business. Here's what you'll be investing in. Our innovative wind technology uses multiple patented aerofoil fins to capture a variety of wind speed and directions, converting the oscillations to carbon-free electricity. With costs comparable to offshore wind and totally outperforming solar, we deliver a 10% return to the owner at just 8 pence per kilowatt hour. And if that's not enough, our patented passive cooling system slashes data centers' intensive cooling power consumption and carbon emissions by over 50%, making industrial AC units obsolete. Our thermal vibration bell uses bifluids and oscillating fins to dissipate waste heat. This is a strong revenue opportunity for our business in a well-funded sector. Another reason to invest in Catrick Technologies. In 2022, we expect £6 million of revenue, growing to £360 million in 2026. Our EBITDA margin over the period averages 70%, reflecting the software-like characteristics of our business model, giving us up to 90% profit margin potential. Our profit comes from licensing our IP to OEMs, not manufacturing ourselves. An experienced team, fully patent-protected technologies, vast opportunities, cash positive from 2022, exit potential 50 times plus in 5 years. So what are we looking for? A total of £9 million investment in exchange for 18% of our business.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, please come and see us outside, or if you're online, please send us your questions. Thank you, guys.
I'd like now to call up my fellow panel members, please. Jacqueline Redman, she's the Executive Director of Power Networks Distribution Centre here at the University of Strathclyde. Sarah Malani, partner with Brown Rudnick, one of our major sponsors, and Keith Mitchell, who's a partner with N4, a direct investment firm. Thank you. You sit in the middle, Keith. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. According to the UN, this sector is the largest contributor to global emissions, probably is somewhere estimated about 35%. Presentations today covered energy generation, energy storage, harvesting, efficiency, management, and monitoring, what I would call elements. And what I wanted to do with your help today in the panel was to try and lift that up, think a little bit more about at the system level. If you think about the Carbon Trust, what they said we need a new energy system, require new technology, different consumer behavior, new business models, and so on. And you can think about what blockchain talked to us about, Cheesecake and Zoos, about systems. So this is where I'd like to start with my panel. I'd like to start, if possible, with you, Jacqueline. As we strive towards net zero, do you see closer collaboration, reconfiguring the energy system in a joined-up way we've not seen so far?
Well, yes, I hope so. I think so. I really enjoyed all of the presentations. As an engineer, that was like a kid in a sweetie shop, or for the online audience, a child in a candy store. What I really liked about it was what we saw there was a combination of new technology for energy generation and then new technology to make the most of the current energy generation we have. And I think that, as I sit here with my background in sort of investments as well, there's a lot of technology out there and you can't quickly grasp if that technology is going to work or not. So what I look for is to understand the depth of the talent in the organisation. And I think also what I look for as well is to see the connections, and I need the companies to show me how they can collaborate with other companies to pull together this new system. And I was sitting reflecting about offshore wind, which we've talked about before. Now, offshore wind wasn't born, it didn't come out as a combined product. The first offshore wind projects suffered with their gearboxes. So then gearboxes were developed, and then new turbines were developed, and new blades were developed. So I think it's incumbent upon entrepreneurs to be making those connections themselves in their head, to be already thinking about, if I partner with this person or I partner with that person, then what I bring is a new system to the solution.
Keith, if we could turn to you. I know we've talked about decarbonised and decentralised power value chains in the past. How do you think you could drive that further and faster with some incentives? And I'm thinking something beyond the EIS, which is quite well adopted today.
Yeah, I think that the EIS system is a huge incentive for individuals to promote these new technologies, for sure. I think part of the challenge is, well, there's many challenges, I think, and not to go against Bertrand Piccard, but there are challenges that we see, and it's to do with the opportunities reaching, and it's been said before today, reaching the market, and how do these opportunities get tested and tried in the marketplace. I think there was a discussion earlier about the importance of fundraising around the revenue generating businesses as opposed to fresh starts. So getting to that marketplace is vital. And I think importantly, everyone along this value chain is looking for the same thing. It's just connecting that value chain, which is really important. Whether it's the funders, whether it's the technologists themselves, or whether it's the people who can open the doors to the marketplace. It's trying to connect all the areas. And I think that the optimist in me says that everyone wants that to happen. In the utilities, all the way down through the EPC providers, all the way down through to technologists, is how do you lubricate that stickiness? And that stickiness happens with, especially down at the early stage businesses around fundraising. A lot of these guys spend a lot of their time looking for funds when actually they're experts at developing new technologies. And and then when they've raised some funds, it's getting that first order, getting that first. So how does that happen? But I think to your point around the new business models, for sure, it's the carrot as opposed to the stick. What can we do more beyond EIS around investing in these new technologies to help remove some of that stickiness? I think is vitally important for these businesses.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Just to make one more point. What's interesting when you look at these technologies, maybe all the people in the room wouldn't invest in all of them, but I'll bet you all of the people in the room would invest in at least one or two if they had the funds to do so. Yes. So it just shows you the attractiveness of what Greenbackers are putting on today and the attractiveness of these technologies.
When I think of a different system, I'm thinking of what you mentioned, sort of connectivity, I'm thinking of flexibility, I'm thinking of visibility or transparency is the sort of word. If I think about this, Sarah, I think about connectivity, and these are high-growth new startup energy companies. What sort of sources of finance and investment do you think they should be prioritizing?
So you need to think about investors in kind of 4 pots. And the way I always put them together is you've got VC investors, so that's your kind of traditional VC fund. Typically, they were looking for a financial return. You've got your CVC investors, so your corporate venture capital arms. They're out there looking for new technologies. They're covered in red tape. There's loads of bureaucracy. They can't necessarily deploy technology at the same speed as you guys can. They want access to it, but they also, they want to make some money as well. You've got this kind of new breed of impact investor, and actually it's not really a new breed. We've been, at Brown Rudnick, Jimmy, Neil and I, we've been acting for impact investors for about 7 or 8 years now. And they're looking to make a financial return, but they're also wanting to see their money work a bit harder and do some good in the world. And then you've got your kind of family offices and your high net worth individuals, and a lot of that money kind of has that kind of imagination drive to it. They want to invest in something that's going to see change. I would say, consider all of them as investors. There's been a big drive in the last couple of years and a big change where, these funds are going out, these VC funds are going out, and they're trying to raise capital into their own fund. And the LPs are saying, great, you've given us a brilliant return on our funds over the last couple of years, but we now want to see our money work that bit harder. We want to see that great return, but at the same time, we also want to know that we've helped Bob down the street fuel his house for, when there's been a power shortage or whatever. So consider everybody. I think it's really important for you all. You should always think of, and probably Neil's going to kill me for this one, but when you're out looking for capital, think about, you're also courting the investors as well. You're trying to find the right fit for your business. So whether that's going to be kind of strategic partnerships, or it's going to be that kind of pack of money, or whether it's going to be somebody who's going to give you great PR, or is going to be a great addition to your board, there are different ways to approach it. But the good news is everybody really wants to see a double bottom line now with their finances. So this is you're very sexy. There is it.
Just staying with you, Sarah, if I might. I'm thinking about corporates, and there's been a lot said in the last 10 days or so about corporates being accountable for ESG. What are some of the ways you think you advocate for doing this?
So you'll see ESG. You type in ESG in Google now, and it's just in big lights. I mean, you could sit on Google forever, and you would have so many different opinions on it and whatsoever. I'm going to put a shocker out there. ESG compliance is a wee bit of a misnomer in my view. There isn't one place to go for ESG. There isn't one kind of act or statute or guideline or regulation that you can go and read and say, okay, I'm going to do all of this and I'll be ESG compliant. Effectively, if you're kind of complying with employment laws, or you're kind of have an anti-bribery policy, or you've got kind of you're acting in a way that's non-discriminatory, you're already ESG compliant to an extent. The difference is that the kind of, for me, ESG is about reporting. And for those from government in the room, you might want to shut your ears. My view is, you know, there's a lot of kind of legislation for PLCs, and that's because they're the companies that can drive it forward and put policies in place and report against those policies. But there isn't much for private companies. There were some guidelines published in the EU earlier this year, in April this year. But obviously, Brexit, they don't necessarily apply to all of you in this room. The thing that you need to be aware of is that really when they created those guidelines, it was the Institute of Directors was one of the drivers behind that. So they are going to be coming. So think about getting ahead. You know, if you're going to be reporting, why not go that level higher than what's required by the guidelines? If you have a look at them, they're about, you know, they're a really easy set to follow through. Why not kind of set the standard for the industry now? The one thing that I will say is that investors are going to be looking at you and kind of, they're going to be wanting to see how you are kind of creating the standards. It helps them with their reporting requirements. As I said earlier, they've got to report to the LPs how their money is working harder. So start thinking about that now and pushing that out. And you know, you can use great products. For example, Blockchain have an ESG platform. Darren, you can slip the champagne under the chair when I've finished. But yeah, so think about how you're going to report, how you're going to present your business, because investors really want to see that now. So have a look at those guidelines on the EU Commission's website, published 18 April 2021. And think about, you know, what you're doing and how you're going to incentivize your employees to kind of drive the business forward as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. Jacqueline, when Alex Schlick, I was interested in what he said there at the end. He said, at the end of his pitch, he said, the energy system is changing. Be part of that change. As you reflect on that with PNDC, what's the impact that has on you?
So I think the energy system is changing. You know, it's decentralising, it's democratising. We're moving away, I think, from a centrally controlled grid. And you're seeing communities now taking responsibility for their energy. And we're also seeing, it's really interesting in Scotland, you know, we're seeing the Orkneys and the Shetlands now looking to developing new energy systems and actually starting to export green hydrogen as a future. And what I see at PNDC, you know, we actually target that valley of death that was talked about earlier, where you have the great idea at the university and then you have the deployed, and then in between, what you need is, particularly if you're a small company, you maybe can't afford the specialists in every single part of your technology. So we're there to help, and we're there with along the other sort of Scottish innovation centres to help bridge that and provide the technical support, the equipment support to help you test, because what we're seeing now is more and more smaller, medium enterprises, actually the ones that are coming through with innovative solutions and the one that can actually solve the problems and move that a wee bit faster. And we're also doing a dating agency. We work with a lot of the large network operators who are also trying to understand what decarbonising heat, decarbonising transport is going to mean for their systems. So I think, at least within the Scottish context, there's that nice ecosystem set up that will help accelerate that deployment.
Yeah. I mean, dealing with, you know, distributed demand, variable, fluctuating demand is key to getting the right system. Keith, I'm going to pick on you because of your Clyde Blowers and N4 background, and thinking about Magtor and where they're sitting with this product that's got to penetrate mass markets, very established markets with established conventional technology. Maybe what advice would you give them as how to break into that?
Well, I think a lot of these established markets and established industries are conservative by nature, but I think that you know, they're also these larger organisations are also highly motivated to find new solutions, and I think that that introduction that Jacqueline was mentioning earlier, and that bridging, that access into the system integrators. I mean, that's you know, the place that you guys want to get to is who can best make those introductions to those integrators of those component parts, because you know, on the face of it, it looks like game-changing technology.
And sort of following on to that, I mean. Someone said already, it's not so much generating, I think Jim Wilson said, it's not so much generating more renewable energy, it's integration of it into things like water treatment, heating, cooling. How would you reflect on that?
Yeah, no, for sure. And look, even the most traditional of businesses is looking to evolve in this area. I mean, it's incumbent on them. The point that was made earlier around ESG requirements. When we first started raising funds, the ESG diligence was, a couple of pages in the pack, and now it's, it's front and foremost and takes up a bigger pile than any other section. So, from institutional investors investing into even traditional businesses, that's got to flow back up again. So any technology that they can incorporate, because they're looking right across their value chain. It's not just about putting new solar panels in a factory. It's looking at, where are their products going? What's the life of that product, and what does that look like, and the carbon usage of that product whilst it's in operation. So I think all of these technologies getting to the right place and getting tried and tested quickly is important. It's that whole thing about the Google philosophy of let's try and fail quickly. If you spend all your life trying to raise funds, then you don't even get the chance to fail or succeed.
Thank you. I'm just conscious of the clock there, because as an Edinburgh guy in Glasgow, I don't want a red card. So I'd like to thank my expert panelists for a fantastic, fascinating discussion. And as tradition says, would all the presenters stand up and face the audience for a round of applause, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are 30 minutes away from haggis bonbons and Prosecco. We're also 30 minutes away from that really important investment decision you all have to make with the family silver, represented, of course, by the tokens that you were given at the beginning. So be thinking about those tokens and how you're going to spend them, please. What I'd like to do now is introduce our final cohort on resource conservation, and what a brilliant group they are. They really meet the high bar that's been already set by everybody who's spoken to you so far. So online, I guess probably you may already have started, and really some of the jurisdictions you're in, it is a little bit early. But please enjoy that. Please enjoy our last cohort and our last panel after that, and then we'll make some closing remarks. So please, could we have our first speaker? Thank you very much indeed.
Hello, my name is Carsten Brinkschuld. I'm co-founder and CEO of Dryad Networks. We are connecting the natural world, and our first application is to prevent wildfires with an ultra-early detection system. Wildfires are causing 20% of global CO2 emissions. That's about the same amount the entire traffic puts into the air, between 6 and 8 billion tons of carbon emissions. Worst, us as humans are responsible for 80% of wildfires starting them. They're killing about 3 billion animals each year, a massive cut into biodiversity, and causing $140 billion of financial damages, 10 billion to the insurance industry. Obviously, it's a big problem many companies are trying to solve. There are satellites looking down from space, cameras looking over the forests. We're focusing on an ultra-early detection system by placing sensors into the forest to detect fires in the smoldering phase. We've developed Dryad SilverNet, which is a combination of 3 elements. One is a gas sensor, solar-powered, that we place into the forest that can detect hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and carbon monoxide. We build a network infrastructure in the forest for IoT that actually enables our sensors to communicate in very large-scale mesh networking infrastructure. And we've got a cloud-based platform where we do data analytics and, of course, alerting in case of a wildfire. We've received 1.8 million funding seed last year. One of our lead investors is Stihl, the world's largest chainsaw manufacturer, for obvious reasons. We added 1.6 million euro grants from the European Union, and now we're searching for 8 to 10 million euro Series A. 1.8 million is committed already from existing investors. I shall correct it, it's 2.2 million committed. We're investing into scaling, marketing, and building the organization and selling the product. The product is being manufactured right now, and we want to save about 140 million tons of carbon emission, 600 million tons of carbon emission by saving 1.4 million hectares of forest by 2030. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Eric Warner. I manage the UK business for Xfire, which I'm pleased to tell you about. Our CEO and founder, Harm Botter, Harm, can you stand up, please? Was a late arrival. He wasn't sure that he was going to be able to make it, but he's come in very late, so, okay. Xfire is the simplest, safest, and by far the greenest method of suppressing industrial fires in the world today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in the time remaining. Basically, industry has evolved a lot since it began. It began in the combustion engine, the internal combustion engine, with steel and metal and fabrication. And today, it's driven by telecommunications, electricity, and computers. The problem of dealing with fires has been evolved as well. Initially, it was water, the buckets of water and sand. About 100 years ago, it evolved to gas, because water is as destructive of industrial architecture as the fire itself, so they evolved the method of gas, suffocating the fire, suppressing it. And the gas is stored in big, heavy tanks like this under very high pressure, which brings a lot of problems with it. It's inherently unsafe. Every year there are horrendous accidents. It's difficult to maneuver and transport. You need a special license for that high pressure. And most importantly, the gas contained within it to suppress the fire is most definitely not green. What happened was the salvation for this came from satellites. Harm was in the incubator of the European Space Agency. We heard from one of the ocean people today with the ESA, and he discovered a small technology which is used to guide satellites in orbit, and he had this brilliant inspiration that it could be applied, that technology could be applied in this area. The solution is these, the Xfire green gas generators. They're 100% safe. They don't have any pressure at all. They are easy to maintain and manipulate and maneuver. And best of all, they are green, because the gas that's used to suppress the fire is nitrogen, pure nitrogen. Comes out, suffocates the fire, no harmful effects on the environment, no harmful effects on any of the people around. So it's completely safe. One area, the market's been growing about 5% per annum. It's got about $5.5 billion now. It'll be about $8 billion in 2026. We're hoping to capture about 20% of that market in due course. But one particular area of the market which we're very focused on is this, the lithium-ion battery section, because they produce horrendous fires. Once a fire starts in those batteries, they cannot be suppressed by any means. Siemens, who is a close partner for Xfire, 2 years ago produced a white paper saying the ideal way of doing it is nitrogen. So therefore, we are working very closely with them. I'm over my time. Basically, I just wanted to show you that the fact is that if we were successful in suppressing this, the global footprint we could save is between 7 and 10 million tons of CO2 equivalent per annum. We're already producing product. We're already selling product. We've got about 800,000 euros. We're EIS investable, and we're raising about 4 million euros to help our growth and scale. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Peter Miles, and I'm one of the co-founders of eHemphouse, and thanks very much to Greenbackers for inviting us along. So I want to tell you about three things very quickly. I want to tell you about hemp, I want to tell you about Africa, and then I want to explain about the smart box technology. So hemp sucks out more CO2 when it grows than trees, and it grows very quickly, from seed to harvest in about 100 days, unlike 25 years for trees. And hemp can help all of us have a better quality of life. It can house us, it can clothe us, it can feed us. There are a multitude of products that are derived from hemp, and all of them are decarbonized, sustainable, and environmentally friendly, unlike all of the products that they replace. So hemp is an answer to climate change, and it also is integral to the green industrial revolution. I could have done that, couldn't I? Sorry about that. That would have helped. Anyway, I've talked about that. So, Africa. No, stop it. So, Africa, it's the fastest growing consumer market in the world. 1.3 billion people live there today, half of whom are under the age of 20. And 50% of the global total of underutilized land is in sub-Saharan Africa. That's an enormous 200 million hectares, effectively the size of 10 times England and Scotland combined. And currently, agriculture in Africa faces two structural issues: the need to get water to the crops, so irrigation, and access to processing facilities to be able to turn that harvest into useful commercial products. So, how do we kickstart the green industrial revolution in Africa with hemp? Well, I'll do it this time. The key is the SmartBox technology from eHemp House. The SmartBox is a mobile, off-grid hemp processing system that you can place right next to where you're cultivating that hemp crop. And the power that it uses to process the crop can be used for other things like irrigation, thus neatly solving those two systemic problems that are currently facing African agriculture. And the SmartBox has multiple co-benefits for the local communities as well. And importantly, the verified carbon credits produced by the system are used to fund the SmartBox, meaning that it can be provided free to the farmers who would otherwise not be able to afford it. So the SmartBox is a spark to ignite this green industrial revolution in Africa. And we're raising £1.5 million to now scale our operations in Africa to make this a reality. So I hope you've heard enough, despite the slight slide problem, to want to actually hear some more, and we'd love to talk to you in the exhibition afterwards. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Reed Paget, founder of Limit Genes. Thank you, Greenbackers. There are three big reasons, or important reasons, that I would say would make Limit an important investment. And the first is that we have created the world's most sustainable denim jeans that also fit and look great. Made from hemp, they reduce the environmental impact of cotton jeans by 80%. So going back to Bertrand Piccard's comments, this is a today technology that can have a big difference. The other reason that makes this that hemp or makes this investment important is that the market is enormous. It's a 70 billion annual denim market, and the biggest trend in this market is sustainability, which we are leading. So those 2 points together would arguably make a strong investment argument, but we have something perhaps even bigger and more important, and that's the enormous story behind the Limit brand. And the origins of this story began with a 1972 book, Limits to Growth. Some of you may remember that from university. Others may have lost it in the memory hole. But this book forecasts that the global population is going which was 3.5 billion at the time, was if it rises as quickly as they forecast, was going to deplete global resources, leading to a population collapse. Since this book was published, the global population has indeed more than doubled, from 3.5 to 8 billion, and meanwhile the resource consumption has tripled, and we're now facing 9 planetary boundaries that are threatening the environment and with it civilization. Now, looked at just from a commercial point of view, first of all, this is a big issue that needs to get out there. It also is a big commercial opportunity, because once young consumers, who are the main buyers of jeans, come to realize that unsustainable businesses and clothing companies are effectively threatening their lives, this issue is going to become as big or even bigger than climate change, and it's going to attract international social media attention, and as a result, we believe, a lot of sales for Limit jeans. So what makes Limit a smart investment? We've got the greenest jeans just when the market's demanding them. We're the environmental leaders of a 70 billion global denim market. And behind our brand and marketing strategy is the biggest issue facing this generation, global population collapse. We're currently looking for £600,000 to shift our jeans online, and we'd welcome a conversation with any investors who are looking for a really interesting business to get behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greenbackers. Thank you all. I'm David Hollander. That wasn't me. I'm CEO of Propel Air. We're an environmental solution that saves customers money. In a world that flushes nearly 10% of its drinking water down the drain, our reinvented toilet saves 83% of that by replacing most of the water with air. And because this powerful flush propels the waste into existing drains, it's easy to retrofit. Designed for commercial use, it's proven patented technology, and it's already saving companies a billion litres of water and £3.5 million each year in just 4,000 installations already. Though not water challenged, in the UK, our clients are looking to save water, to reduce their carbon, and increase hygiene. So happy are they that repeat and specifying customers now represent 40% of our revenues. Following a successful entry into South Africa, where amongst others, Nedbank, Burger King, Siemens, and several shopping malls are rolling out our system, we've just entered the Gulf, and we've already got an installation in Fly Dubai's head office, as well as in the massive Majel Al Futtaim's, one of their shopping malls, where we're hoping to roll out next year. Our experienced management team delivered £1 million of revenue in 2019. We expect to do the same in 2021 following the challenges of COVID, and by this time next year, we'll be at 3 times that. We forecast break-even within 2 years, selling 50,000 units by 2026, when we may execute an exit, which we would expect to be to a trade buyer. To achieve that, to expand internationally, and to develop new products, we're seeking £4 million in equity so that together we can save the planet one flush at a time.
Thank you very much. I am the last speaker, so you do have a chance for a 2-minute power nap if you so choose before the haggis bonbons. But what I want to tell you about today is data. But first, I want to say thank you to the Greenbackers for a wonderful event. And also thank you to you as well. Wonderful to connect with you. Please come see us at our table. We'd love to talk to you. So what we do is we build data storage systems. And our patent-pending hardware and software, we give that to the clients so that they can store their data in a secure way. And our clients come from industries like the medical industry or the research industry or the defense industry. And what they have in common is that they have mounting amounts of data that they want to store for a very long period of time. And the feedback they've given to us is that what we're doing is fundamentally very important. And what we're doing is that we're making data more sustainable in a storage way. We're leading the industry in that way. We're not leading in just a little bit, we're leading a lot. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. I think what we can all agree is that data is important. And data is growing astronomically. But the consequence is that we need to put this data somewhere. You need more and more physical space. In fact, what you may not know is that 3% of the world's entire energy production goes to data storage today. That's more than what Germany consumes or Japan consumes annually. And in fact, because the designs are archaic, we have about a 3 to 5 year lifespan on these data storage racks, which results in mounting electronic waste. It's toxic for the environment. And this theme of COP26 is reducing our carbon output, and data's carbon output is 3.7% of the global carbon output. So that's more than what the airline industry produces. And at Swissvault, what we did was we reimagined the data storage rack. We thought outside what the industry was producing, and we built something that is 14 times more dense. So you can store more data in less space. And we made it 10 times more energy efficient, so you can reduce your costs. And we made the units last for 20 years in operation lifetime, so that decreases the electronic waste. And by total, it will help our customers decrease their costs, but also decrease data's carbon footprint by 10-fold. So this is the amazing thing that brought this technology, is bringing the technology to market. Of course, we want to expand the team because we have a lot of interest and we want to meet that interest. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to raise $2 million in a convertible note so we can reach our next milestone, which is about $10 million in revenue. And but I know that I think that we can help you as investors make a lot of money. Consider that the market size is $200 billion in data storage, just in technology. And comparable companies like ours have been reinventing the data storage, have been bought for $5 billion to $10 billion in the last 10 years. And so we can help you make an incredible return on your investment, but more importantly, also make an impact. So thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, our resource conservation cohort, could you all please stand up for those who have just presented and say hi to our audience, our online audience. Thank you very much. Thank you. Could I ask now, please, our final panel to come and join us? So we've got Jim Wilson, we've got Paul Morris, and we've got Mark Monroe. Our organic agenda has now caught up, and we have the right photos for the last panel. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining me here today. Mark, what I'd like to do is start with you, if I may. You're from Scottish National Investment Bank. You're from the bank. You've lent money into interesting sectors. In terms of resource conservation, I'd just like to understand how that, saving energy, saving resources, fits in to the bank's themes of investment. If you'd just like to talk a little bit about that, please.
Sure. So the bank's a mission-led development bank for Scotland. That means marrying financial returns with mission returns. And the way we do it, as you're asking, Andrew, is through the mission returns, so as well as providing the boring, maybe financial covenant certificates. There's mission covenants attached. That could be the power source for your factory is renewable. It could be encouraging the move to a green fleet as well. So we monitor and sort of put that into our investment requirements.
Yeah. And Paul, a very experienced investor and very well connected with the investment market. Using that history and using those connections and your knowledge of that market, how important to those investors that you speak and with those whom you engage is this theme of resource confirmation? How attractive as a cohort are those businesses that are actually at their core saving resources?
Yeah, well, the bad news is I'm not going to invest in any of these companies. But I think we can help connect the companies with many investors. So what we do at the specialist VC units within DIT is work with VCs and corporate VCs around the world who have interests in seeing deal flow that fit their investment scope. I mean, there's 6 companies that just presented now, and indeed the whole of the 4 streams today. Some very interesting companies. There are only 2 things really that in terms of qualification, because it's UK government money or UK government funded, we need that those companies are UK headquartered. And secondly, because we're working with international investors to bring more VC investment into the UK, usually we're typically working with companies that are raising 4 million and above. Some of the companies are still a little bit earlier than that now, but at least getting them on our radar for when they are raising larger sums, that's important for us. And I think there's a growing interest in that whole space for many, many investors, including, say, the corporate VC units. We work with VC funds and corporate VCs, but with a real focus on corporate VCs. The corporate VC units are some of the big traditional oil and gas companies are very, very much focused on sustainability and this, many things that we've seen today.
And Jim, if I may ask you, just picking up on that theme, the extent to which resource confirmation and the way that has to be reflected in quoted businesses' balance sheets and on their accounts. You had a past in a big business, SSE. To what extent do you think that is going to be a driver for change, that obligation to report on carbon reduction and potential adoption by those businesses and support for this sort of cohort of companies?
I think it's crucial to some of the larger businesses, and it's been quite interesting over this last 10 days or so, to see companies like SSE and other businesses who you would have thought had impeccable green credentials actually getting quite a hard time over, what they're doing for carbon emissions. They're doing a lot, but in some people, they're just not doing enough. So I think it's very important, and I think the last speaker in particular, the way he laid it out, the increase from 3% to 10% of global emissions down to data, sort of puts it all in perspective as to, we're doing what we can here to reduce emissions through technology, but our behaviours, if you like, are taking us to a place where there's this gradual increase in, the energy required for data. So that resource conservation and, reducing emissions from resources that exist at the moment, crucial, and especially for large corporations.
Yeah, indeed. And Mark, if I may come back to you, I understand that one of the themes, one of the core elements that the bank is looking to support sits around the just transition, and preservation of resource has got to be, I guess, an element of that. And I wonder if you'd just share with us a little bit about the bank's views of the just transition and how you would typically view that when you are looking at potential investments.
I don't want to stray too much into the political world, but I think we need to learn from the deindustrialisation of the previous generations, first and foremost, especially here around Glasgow and other parts of Scotland. And if we're going to talk about this specifically, we're most likely talking about the northeast of Scotland as well, given its importance to oil and gas, both here and globally. Again, I'll go back to the mission comments would be where we're looking to invest. We don't invest directly into oil and gas production. However, we're very cognizant that there's a transition, the just transition to be had, and that will come through the bank using its capital to invest and support companies who can pivot from oil and gas into the new industries. How we'll do that directly would be trying to provide and find partners to provide funding to allow the skills to be migrated. Again, it comes back to the sort of centre of expertise with that. There's a lot of skills that need to be transitioned. So if we can support through the creation of apprenticeship programmes, linking up with things like the Energy Transition Zone in Aberdeen, the Net Zero Technology Centre as well, in terms of playing a signpost and potentially through capital, that's how we're trying to support that.
Thanks very much, Mark. And Paul, if I may, you live out with the UK now. Clearly, you're very familiar with the UK market. I just wonder if there's any, in your knowledge, geographic difference in the way resource conservation is looked upon by the investment community, or if you think it's pretty much the same across the board. Is there any geographical distinction as far as you're aware?
I think if you talked in very general terms, you talk about Germany or the Scandinavian countries as being particularly focused on that area. But if you broaden this a little bit, I mean, I think both public and private sector have key roles to play in the whole, everything we've heard about today, the whole energy transition and everything else. But ultimately, technology is going to drive many of those solutions, and most of that technology development will come from the private sector. And a lot of the funding will come from the private sector, at least in the growth stage. So if you look at the VC world, and much of that will come from venture capital, the UK is in a really good position when you look at Europe. The UK accounts for 1/3 of all VC investment in Europe now, so as much as the next two countries, which is France and Germany, combined. And investors are moving more and more to look at energy transition, impact, environmental. So I think the UK is in a good position, but still a long way behind the US. So that's really where the work is to be done. That's why we're trying to bring more VC investment from around the world into the UK.
Yeah. Thanks very much. And Jim, if I could just come to you, and I know you don't speak on behalf of governments at all, but I would like to get your thoughts on the role of regulation. We need more efficient housing to preserve resources. There's a lot that government regulation can do to help create some form of market pull. Could you talk a little bit about the role of regulation in driving resource conservation?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, government's certainly got a role, but then again, you know, if you think in housing and some of the issues there with insulation and 80% of the houses already being standing today that will exist in 2050. So that is clearly an issue. But I think a lot of the businesses we've seen in this last group, in particular, you know, they've come up with a solution to a significant problem in reducing global emissions. And if they can do that, and if they can deliver shareholder value at the same time, then it's really our duty to invest in them and give them the opportunity to do something, to combat this huge problem that we face.
Yeah. What I'd like to do, Mark, is just hand to you for a closing remark, perhaps a little bit about the bank's ability, and ask you to be brief here, the bank's ability and desire to invest in businesses that are out with Scotland but are coming to Scotland. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Don't believe it needs to be saltires and thistles. I've said this to you before. Andrew, we're here to facilitate investment into Scotland through providing capital, so it can be where there's going to be a presence in Scotland via jobs or a site or just intellectual capital of some sort. So please come and speak to us.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, your Resource and Conservation panel. What I'd like to do now is just make some closing remarks. We've had 4 themes. We've had 4 panels. We've had some amazing presentations. Please, could you all stand up now and face the audience? Please, our companies. Thank you. Thank you very much. All companies, details available in the showcase online, of course, available here tonight through in the networking area. Please keep the conversations that you've started going on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on whichever social media platform you use. Before I hand over to my colleague Mark Hannigan for some closing remarks, a reminder you need to invest your tokens. I'd also now like to ask the Greenbackers crew to please come onto the stage. Without the Greenbackers crew, ladies and gentlemen, there's really nothing that we can do. Please come forward. Please come forward. Thank you very much. And they'll now go and help to prepare for the great rush for the haggis, bonbons and the Prosecco, which await all of you. Of course, neither could we do this without our sponsors who've helped us before today, who've helped us today, and who we hope will continue to help us going forward. So please remember Brown Rudnick, please remember Solar Impulse Foundation, Scottish Development International, Michelin Scotland Innovation Park, TriRec, the Green Recruitment Company, Gov Grant, CivTech Alliance, and Strathclyde University. I'd like to particularly thank our keynote speakers, who I found completely compelling and inspiring. Of course, you already know I am a complete fan of Bertrand Piccard. I'd like to thank Ivan McKee, who's been a tremendous supporter of what we're trying to do here at Greenbackers. I'd like to thank the AV team at Tapestry, who've really helped things make things go well. Thank you. And I'd like to thank the tech events team who've helped us tremendously also. And without further ado, just for some closing remarks, I'd like to hand over to my partner, Mark Hannigan. Thank you.
Be very, very, very quick, don't worry. And, please spend time. I know it's been a long session, but all of the ventures have tables and little mini booths and alcohol and food out there to speak in a more relaxed manner about their businesses. So you've made the effort to come here. So please just spend some time out in the networking area, relax, have a drink on us, have some food, and spend time with these amazing entrepreneurs. I know we thanked the group there, but I can't let it go. I think he's gone. Is he gone? Rory, the handsome gentleman, curly hair from the crew, got a call during the event to say that he'd got a distinction in his degree for graduation, but he's not here. I had to mention it. Very last slide. Tonight's just one event, and this is a mission for Greenbackers. It doesn't stop tonight by any manner of means. We've had an incredible 6-month ramp of building investor interest for these businesses, and that work continues after COP. I just wanted to highlight a few of the things that are coming next for Greenbackers, and you can watch this space if you like what we do. Firstly, the online deal platform has been an enormous success. We're at 230 funds, 30-ish ventures. We think that's heading for 500 funds, probably 10 billion under management there, with the funds, not with us, and probably 100 ventures, because investors love the tool, ventures love the tool. So if you're on the platform, there's more to come. If you're not and you're an investor, get on it. Secondly, we'll be at Dubai Expo in February, Andrew and I in the region. An awful lot of sovereign wealth out there looking for a clean tech home, and a fledgling innovation culture out there also, relevance for these technologies. And then finally, we're planning to launch our own fund next year, and that's really for 2 reasons. Firstly, we get immensely frustrated when we've heavily diligenced these businesses and we just can't get investors to tip over the edge. And with our own pool of capital, we believe that we can tip the balance with a lot of third parties following. And secondly, we get a lot of feedback from investors that they love early stage, but it's very small checks and it's an awful lot of work. So a lot of funds are looking to become funds of funds and act as LPs and give us the responsibility to deploy some of that capital. So watch this space for that also. We're done. Did I miss anything, Andrew?
No, you did not.
Okay. So thank you everyone for your participation.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go.